Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lore Ramblings. Um, name's Adam, and funnily enough, literally the moment before we started streaming, YouTube decided to experiment with how their button arrangements would look, and as a result, they broke them. It's kind of gross looking. I am joined today with Tech Priest, who's also here.
I'm here, and it is a wonderful day today. It was rainy all day. Uh, I, in the meantime, somehow managed to complete the most crazy achievement in EU4, which is the spaghetti western.
What's that one again?
I do not recommend it. It is forming Texas's Bologna in Italy. Uh, I do not recommend it. It is either incredibly difficult or just a time waster. One of the two. In my case, it was just I got lucky. I was able to snag a province that had colonial range and hop on over the New World and form my wonderful nation of Texas, which now all speak Italian. So the spicy pasta is now on the menu, boys.
I think you're
Anyway,
low-key
speaking of
just
spicy,
explaining the inner sphere colonization method, honestly.
basically. Anyway, speaking of spicy pasta, uh, we get to go and talk a little bit here about the First Succession War, also known as the First Nukening, as Adam has christened it, not inaccurately.
Yeah, because some of the key events that I remember, and remember, I'm a complete casual with this. This is just based on previous live streams we've covered. This is the war that basically fries most of the Inner Sphere's naval capabilities, most of the dock works that were able to build officially battleships, not cargo freighters because those are simpler kind of arrangements, but basically any large ship essentially gets nuked to shit and back. This is also the, I believe, beginning rise of Comstar's influence because it's one of the few places that keeps its stuff kind of intact. And also, this is the war with the Kentaris massacre, which is actually what I used for the thumbnail.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens in this.
A lot of technology goes down the shitter. Even more goes down during the second, if I recall.
The second's really the last gasp of high technology in the inner sphere. Like the first Succession War, arguably the sphere can recover from it. It's
I
not
I
the worst.
think it's the war that destroys the naval capabilities, like large warship construction. I believe it
Yeah,
also.
like they still have shipyards. They still have a bunch of these other things. They're not good. They're not in good condition. But they still have them. Theoretically, they can restore them to full capacity. Theoretically, the brain drain really hasn't set in yet. Uh, but this is really the first giant blow of like, oh, you know that industrial capacity and shared technical knowledge that you've been building up over the course of
Centuries,
centuries
yeah.
across human space. Well, that's gone.
And you actually
And when
see
I
a
say
little
that's
bit of this
gone,
technology
it's
being blown
fucking
up.
gone.
I love this cover. I don't know the models at all, but they look lovely. I do like the pose that's going on. They're storming a position. Looks like it's around an oil refinery.
Yep. This is, I think, one of the raids between the Lyrans and the Free Worlds, if I had to guess.
Quick, distract them. Things are happening because, of course, they are.
Uh, well, the shitty thing about the first Succession War isn't just, oh right, everyone fucking died. It's also that like it really didn't have to happen. It isn't even like, oh, somebody made a decision to go and like, oh guys, don't worry, we won't have to do the nukening, we won't have to do all the crazy bullshit. Well, yeah, it could have been stopped if at all anyone decided to do something. And Kerensky is not immune from uh, responsibility here. No, those are definitely Steiner units. You can see them on there. There's the nice little gauntlet fist of House Steiner, along with the Lyran. I think that's the Arcturian Guards symbol, which is the green with the halberd. So yeah, that's definitely a Lyran mech. I mean, it's a Griffin. Griffins are usually Lyran, so are Zeus's, which is also in the background there. Both are fun little mechs. Well, not really little. They're both pretty relatively heavy. The Griffin's a 55 tonner and the Zeus is an 80-ton mech. The Zeus is one of those fun assault mechs that goes well, it goes 4.6. It's pretty fast. It's not what I'd call amazing. It's sort of like a big fat heavy, but when it comes to doing big fat heavy things, it does them pretty well. It's no by no means like ideal, but it does the job that it's supposed to do decently well enough. There's a reason why the Lyrans built a bunch of them, and it isn't just because, oh, this is the only heavy assault battle mech they can really mass produce without too much issue. There's a few other things, but like
Sorry about that. For some reason, I have folks and they were wondering why they can't access HBO, and it's because that all moved to streaming. You'd have to get HBO fucking Max.
yep.
Of course, they couldn't have asked me earlier. Sorry about that. So where were we?
But yeah, we were just talking about the Nukenings and the start of it. And the real fun bit about this is they're kind of getting into the next page, of course, is the dream is dead.
Yeah, the dream is
That nice
over.
little thing at the end. There's a Shadow Hawk there with a
Eridani Lighthorse,
Iridani
I
light.
think.
Yep, Iridani light horse paint scheme. Heck, they even have the Star League star down on the leg there.
Yeah, the
But the
dream's
first
dead.
succession war, it's fucking over. Star League is basically about to fall apart in a way that will not be resolvable by anyone at all.
Yeah, so for those wondering, since we're gonna just hop into this,
Hey,
um,
what am I missing?
You're not really missing much. We just
you
kind of just
didn't miss
started,
much.
so
Tech had to fill in time because so fun fact for those who are still paying for TV. So yeah, all of HBO stuff has moved to their streaming service Max, and all of the old channels they used to broadcast for are just telling you to buy there. So
Oh,
it's genuine garbage. I had to get pulled to explain that.
it's more
It's
money for HBO, and that's what they care about.
Well, no, it isn't because they're all fucking reeling. That's the best part about the entertainment industry. Their decision to try to go into IT is just destroying them. Like, it would have just been simpler just to keep giving it to, say, Netflix or something, mainly because they already are paying for the infrastructure. But again, they'd rather have 100% of nothing than 90% of everything. Gotta pick up that penny as you burn the dollar, y'all.
Yeah.
well, anyway.
So
So,
I'm in a similar mood to these guys getting blown up. Yeah, all of these massacres going on this planet.
Yep. So we're gonna get into the starting fiction here, which is actually a nice little callback if you're at all into BattleTech lore. This is the death of Helm.
Oh yeah.
So I think I mentioned before that there's a memory core that was
uh,
recovered by the Grey Death Legion, and that's one of the things that really kickstarted like the comeback of technology. Well, the reason for that is that there's this world in the Free Worlds League. It's called Helm. Helm had a major SLDF uh, depot essentially on it that included a memory core. Now, during the initial part of the first Succession War, there was a raid to try to secure the depot by Kurita. It didn't go well, and rather than what they decided to do, rather than let the depot kind of stay,
they
in
blew it up.
yeah, they basically blew up most of the world. The main issue was that they didn't actually get most of it. There was actually a large chunk of them. They didn't actually destroy the memory core, but they did kill roughly 70 million people
Yep,
on this planet.
specifically the rain, which is essentially just massive amounts of ordnance slammed down on the planet, killed a good chunk of that in the first few minutes.
Yeah, and of course, Comstar immediately used that as a rallying cry against Merrick, but not against Merrick, against
Oh no, I do like. So I
Irida.
do like this at the end when the interviewee's wiping tears from her face about what has been going on. You know,
Yeah, and sure, this
the
makes
tears.
news
What
syndication.
tears are streaming down the interviews, saying basically we want them, to die and kill them all.
Well, that's because
Tears are
this
streaming.
is a Korean thing, and Koreans during this
Yeah,
period massacre a lot of fucking planets.
but she says, "Is that not for you? Is that what
Right.
you wanted?" The technician steps forward to help her. His white robes, a stark contrast to her dark uniform. The Comstar News Bureau logo clearly visible. Thank you, Miss Keeler. We'll ensure this makes the news syndication. Peace of Blake be with you.
Yeah, already things were getting pretty fucky in that scenario. But let's
Yep.
be fair to frame this scenario and why this happens. So this is pretty much in the aftermath of the liberation of Terra. The Terran hegemony, by and far, was the most developed element of humanity in this era, mainly because this is where a lot of the oldest colony worlds were. This is where a lot of the industries and resources were moved to. It had easily some of the most developed areas, and by this point, since they basically put the great houses to heal, they had decades worth of trade, resources, and intercommerce. Yeah, that all gets fucking blown up when Stefan Amaris does what he does with his golden pistol, with his little game with Richard Cameron.
Speaking of Stefan Maris, there's actually a great image of Kerensky's Orion and the
Stefan
fat.
Surrender, yeah.
Yep, the fat man himself.
Yeah, First Succession War kind of low key occurs not much after this point.
It is very soon after the
Almost
Exodus.
because where is because most of the Terran hegemony's defenders leave.
Well, not only that. Okay,
Yep.
so let's go into detail. So, on paper, the Terran hegemony, particularly the SDLF units, are more than capable initially of taking on two of the great houses. That was kind of always the protocols because of how powerful they were. The Periphery Uprising, I think it killed 30% of them. We covered the numbers. It's a brutal
Basically,
slog.
but by the end of the war, like half the SLTF is gone.
Oh no, over half actually. Depending on what units you're looking at, entire armies were reconstituted twice. Just in the opening, 100 divisions were destroyed. 100 divisions, entire army groups. By the end of
As I
it,
said, like by the end of it, about at least half of it's gone. The rest of it is
one third.
not in much of a
One
better
third.
condition.
I think it's 1/3. It's about 1/3. Some units actually suffered something ridiculous, like over 500% casualties, because that included wounded. Third Army in particular, that's one of the many armies, was one of the most affected. And
Yeah.
the industry and industrial complex of the Terran hegemony were in the following order: pillaged, destroyed, nuked into hellfire and glass, bioweapon complexed, cut off so that it would melt due to the adverse atmospheric conditions, and so on. Basically, once Kerensky got within about 30 light years to Terra, Amaris made a point to burn everything and make his units essentially commit massive, large-scale war crimes. Terra itself was destroyed. All of its defense networks were basically destroyed or forcibly
Terra was
taken.
not destroyed. Terra was actually relatively intact.
No, I mean compared to the industry, like there was a lot of bloodshed after you got out of
there
Europe.
there was, but like when we're talking about the
I'm
relative
describing the
scale,
industrial damage.
industrial damage even then it wasn't nearly as bad on Terra as it was on most of the other worlds in the hegemony.
Mm-hmm.
Like the slugging match that happened, plus Amaris raising basically anything he couldn't keep, destroyed the industrial capacity of a lot of worlds and condemned others to a slow death as their terraforming equipment was damaged or destroyed, and there was no chance of replacements anytime soon.
Oh, hey, guess what? To further suit how shitty Monday is, we might have actually dropped for a little bit there. Sorry, chat. I'm honestly sorry. I can't really do anything. Today has just been a bit of a shit show.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
today's been
w-
ass. So speaking of
well,
which, I'm kind of like where Kerensky is right now. Completely done with things.
uh,
Yeah.
not to help with this is after the American Civil War is over, the first thing that the Council Lords do is they strip Kerensky of his office as Protector of the Realm.
Yeah.
So they just straight up.
That's the first thing they do because remember, all of them want to be High Lord, and guess who's the only First Lord, and guess who's the only one of the previous administration still left that could contest that claim?
None of them,
It's
because all the
Kerensky,
Camerons are dead.
It's
right?
only
It's
Kerensky.
Kerensky. So without Kerensky there, there's literally nobody who can say who is going to be the next First Lord. And Kerensky, like him or not, decided that rather than play politics and attempt to declare himself Caesar, which arguably would have saved the Star League, but created a massive problem politically
He
and
probably would have
probably
also
further warfare.
he would have
The
probably also had to fight
No,
again.
no, no.
He
You're
probably would
actually
have had to
Five
fight
wars.
understating.
both
He
curate.
actually tried. No, 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 no. He actually tried that. He spent a couple of years after the Civil War trying to do that. The problem is, out of the lot, the only ones that were willing to listen seriously were the Capellans. The ones that caused him the most headache was House Merrick, who legitimately made it
Merrick
as
and
difficult as
Kurita.
possible.
Merrick and Kurita were the biggest headaches, and fighting both of them at the same time was just not going to be possible.
Oh no,
Because
no, like
here's the other thing: with no Star League, there's nobody to stop you from taking over your rivals' planets that you have
Oh, it's not only
that are
that. Don't
yours.
forget that most of the hegemony worlds are now being gobbled up by the great houses because, well, it's free real estate. Kerensky can't exactly defend it and supply those worlds and do all that. So, what base do you have to build off of to get back? Starleague's basically dead,
And
and
and so
Kerensky, rather than see what's left of the SLDF be parceled out into between the great houses for the real fucking, decides that the best solution is to get the fuck out
and one day return.
and maybe someday come back. Maybe. It's one of those things where you can argue whether or not this was a good decision. In the long run, I
I
would argue it was, because when we see what happens in the first Succession War, if what was left of the SLDF had been in any sort of coherent state, the damage and death toll probably would have tripled.
Yeah.
so
What they got was the scraps of the SLDF, not
So
the
the
cream.
so the initial basically wave, with everything starting to boil, the first tensions begin. 2784, the Parliament of the Free Worlds League passes Resolution 288, granting the Captain General extraordinary powers for the duration of the crisis.
because again, as I was trying to say repeatedly, Merrick was one of the biggest causers of Kerensky to decide to say fuck this shit, because throughout the year, because he spent 2 years, at no point did he ever choose to ever meet with Kerensky face to face. He didn't even send, like, he had to send a delegate. The other houses at least showed up. That is the level of petty Kenyon Merrick was to Kerensky.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, and after the failure to build any power base, because the only other option was to win via force, and he spent a decade doing that already. It chewed
And
through
then
2/3 of his goddamn units.
and then finally, New Year's Eve 2086, coordinator Mio Kurita declares himself the first Lord of Star League.
Yep.
Because at this point, they were planning this for years, literally ever since the Civil War happened, and even before then. That's what the Secret Wars were partially about.
Yeah, Kurita had been trying to build up for something like this for decades, centuries, really.
And that this was the final shot, or the
Also,
first
yes,
shot.
Earth was still relatively intact, but every planet around it in about 24 in a 24 light year.
And about a 30
district.
light year radius is fucked. Yeah,
Also,
the only
let's ignore places like Venus, which lost its solar shielding. I believe several of the other colonized world, like Titan, for example, were also pretty badly damaged.
Titan was fine actually, damaged, but there was a lot of effort devoted to repair stuff like that around Titan because of
Venus was a lost cause because
the shipyards. Yeah, Venus was just a lost cause. Just no other way around it. You couldn't. There's no way to fix Venus.
because
Not when there
people
was
who knew
other
how to
shit that
build
had
it.
to get done, like clearing the entirety of the debris fields around both of those jump points in and out. Like that was necessary to limit the risk of
Also,
someone
let's not
transiting
even
in and
begin to get
exploding.
into the repairs for the planets outside of the Terran system.
Yeah, that was just not going to happen.
By the way, that's something
Oh.
Kerensky also did for 2 years. There's a reason he had a nervous breakdown and left. I don't fucking blame him, honestly.
So, at the beginning of the First Succession War, first of all, despite Starleague's, decimation, they had 515 regiments.
Yeah, the SLDF was not in what I would call a good state, but they were still easily the largest military force in the sphere. And this is part of the reason why I say that this is
especially since in
it's
the
a good thing
aftermath of
Kerensky
the
left.
Civil War, a lot of people that were oppressed by Ameris because his actions pissed off a lot of the Terran hegemony.
Killing the Pope would do such a thing.
So legitimately, that's the other thing. Kerensky kind of scratch built an army out of what was left. Like he had an army. He, I think, basically managed to not quite double it, but he gained, like he went from like 1/3 to about half left, which is impressive. Almost all of them to a man left with him because fuck this.
But
most of the SLDF left with Kerensky, something like 80% of the remainder. They have a fun list on page 32 about that, but we'll get to that. So in general, though,
that's pretty neat. Also, the declaration of war.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. So
wait, no. I do like this quote. Leaving? What do you mean leaving? To where? He can't leave. Who's going to pick up the pieces after we beat each other into oblivion?
Yeah,
regarding Kerensky's exodus.
That's kind of the realization once Kerensky was actually like fucking off was a mix of oh good and oh fuck among the House Lords.
By the way,
because on the one hand, he's no longer in play. That's for them. That's a big deal. That's a good thing for them. On the other hand, it means that there is nothing that is going to stop this.
Also, keep in mind that unlike Kerensky, who fought a grinding 10-year war and wars before then, they only observed what the hell happened. They didn't really participate, really. They gained a little bit of experience and insight.
They had
into how bad this
volunteers
can
that
go.
were helping out. That would,
But
most
the
of those
higher ups
guys
sure
would
as
leave.
fuck don't know what they're doing.
But like you can see what's happened, and you can kind of get an idea that whatever's going to come next is going to need decisive, swift action. If you want to win, you need to be decisive, you need to be swift, and you need to hit extremely hard because any sort of grinding campaign is not going to play out anywhere predictable.
Also,
that's the lessons that have been taken.
Just to show how fucking Weasley these people are. Actually, one thing is a lot of them also demobilized because at that point they were too either aged out or too broken to continue. So actually, he lost divisions. Never mind. But
he lost divisions. They joined house armies. They became mercenaries.
Not many of them joined
There's
house
a lot
armies,
of forces.
But yeah.
Well, you'll see. The main thing that happens here, though, is that while the Exodus is taking a lot of equipment with it, and I do mean a lot, the main thing it takes out is the most warships. Basically, the House warship fleets are always a lot smaller than the hegemonies. This is due to Cameron policies and practicalities of like force projection, but also that warships are hella expensive, And
this is why after the first two succession wars, they only ever decided to bring back mostly economic merchant freighters and essentially turn them into armed merchant AMCs when needed.
Actually, no. There was a lot less of that than you'd think.
Oh, I'm
The main thing
surprised.
that happened is that they stopped doing that for a very simple reason. Too many jump ships are getting destroyed. You need them to have any sort of interstellar civilization. So they simply decided to basically all agreed, let's not militarize the last things keeping interstellar civilization functioning.
Fair enough.
That would be a really bad idea.
No, that's actually
So
also
that's what they.
a fair take, because it's very similar to classical naval warfare, where it's all or nothing. You either lose your whole fleet, which is usually scratch built out of your merchant marine, or you win. That's
Well, yeah. Here's the other thing: you have the wood when you destroyed old navies. In
not
this case,
really.
you have lost. Well, you've lost the entire infrastructure base as well.
And they already lost a lot of their infrastructure base. Some of those ships you literally can't build again. Like the
So
dockworks that built them, you
And
can't service them.
the first major action of the Secession Wars is the Bolan Offensive.
Oh, also
Lyron,
just to note, one last note. Given before he left, he still had. I think he only had slightly less than all of them combined. Honestly, I think 1v5 he could have definitely taken him. It just would have absolutely killed humanity.
1v no, I'd
yeah,
say 1v5,
No, I
and
think
if
he'd
they
still win.
hadn't fought a war.
No, I think he'd still win because they still have the experience on hand. They
you
don't
can
have
see
that.
though the buildup that everyone did in the ramp up to the Civil War. The Capellans did, I think, the most
Yeah.
proportionally speaking. They managed to stand up an entire 20, 25 or so new regiments.
Now,
Which
bear in
is
mind, they were all
fucking
light
impressive.
mechs. They were all
Yeah,
light mechs,
still.
but
I mean, that's pretty
actually,
darn impressive, given, especially since, again, out of the lot, the Capellans were the ones most inclined to actually try to get Kerensky on site. When that didn't happen, you can kind of see the panic build.
so with the Bolan Offensive, Lyron Commonwealth does a preemptive strike against signs of naked aggression from the Free Worlds League, taking the worlds after the Free Worlds League's annexed 2 worlds that were administered
This
by
is
House Merrick and the
before
Starling.
even the Exodus happens. Like you could argue that this is the first
So we're
fighting of this.
yeah,
Oh
we're
yeah,
already
in the
getting
lead up to
fighting.
this, the Terran hegemony actually was losing worlds, and it was instantly causing friction.
Right, and then the
Bolin is when it
real
boiled over.
Bolin arguably is when stuff goes completely off the rails. The main issue that was that happened is almost immediately. It's no holds barred. The
we're having
Bolin's
regiments fighting regiments.
yeah Bolin holds actually really well. There's a lot of fighting. The Bolin is basically like the
So some of this is actually just due to the, again, higher ups, because we kind of covered this when we covered the Lyran Commonwealth. It's very much an oligarchy, very much a plutocracy. Who you know
Yeah.
and what your wealth is usually what gets you into power. And this kind of factors into why they do so poorly. The guy that they brought in was completely untested at this point. He did technically serve harsh somewhat during the Rimworld's campaign, because essentially Kerensky couldn't hold them, so he invited some of the houses to take some of the border provinces, essentially. He did that, and that was about it. This was his first actual straight-up combat fight. And it showed. It really fucking showed.
what really shows in this whole thing is
And
that
don't
you can
forget that in the time that they built up to
Bolin.
that, Merrick built a fortress, a pretty big one, called the Overwatch.
Yeah, Bolin. Merrick fought pretty hard for it. They lost, but they fought pretty hard for it. They still, considering that they were outnumbered,
Heavily.
they did pretty well. They managed to really fucking hurt.
And the Bolan offensive actually serves as sort of a template for what would happen. So we got these heavy naval losses. Defenders fell into their cities to discourage bombardments, but commanders would basically, because they don't want that prolonged war, they drop, well, the quick and easy solutions: nuclear, chemical, blowing up heavy industries to prevent people from recovering quick losses, and scorched earth.
Because again,
Yeah.
just to factor in, at least for the Lyran Commonwealth's point of view, they needed this to be quick because otherwise this would blow up in their face and the other houses would rally against them. So they didn't really give a shit about the damage. They just needed to get the win. And when you have a relative idiot in charge, because he's not like horribly incompetent, but he didn't have the experience. To ensure a
As
victory,
Coyote
sometimes you gotta scramble a few eggs with nuclear hellfire and cook it.
As Coyote says,
Yeah, this
like opening a door instead of knocking, use a rocket launcher is the opening of the first Succession War.
Yeah, the major problem, and we can keep going into, I think the real start though is page 21, because it's like, all right, so the Lyrans are immediately moving in on the God, I might need to get a map of the sphere open at this time and start drawing lines to help people get an idea of what's going on. But
The Lyrans are
essentially
moving
put,
south.
By the way,
the
during
Lyrans
this
are
entire
moving.
time, just to let you know, this is still during the periods of the Dravidian revolts in India. That was still going on at this stage. Yeah, the
Yeah, and
after effects of the Civil War were still going on right when this happened.
So, the Draconis Combine basically seeing this as like, okay, the Lyrans made the move.
Oh no, Kurita was actually planning on it. He was just very pleasantly
Kurita was
surprised.
already planning on move. They were waiting for someone else to move first, essentially.
He was pleasantly surprised that the Lyrans moved so quickly, actually.
So they start attacking Lyrans. They
immediately go after the Lyrans.
Yep.
Because they decide that he's going to probe on both and see which one is the easiest to go through.
And also, much like the Lyrans, his concept was very simple. This wasn't actually supposed to be like a full-on war at this stage. Very quick, fait accompli strikes.
But wasn't.
No, he was going for really quick, fait accompli strikes. And then whoever crumbled quickest, he would go full after.
And we also see the Capellans start going after, doing little movements into Federated Sun space.
Because they've long had issues with each other, so.
There's the land grab and of the Terran hegemony, and everything it's heating up. Pretty much everyone's winning something out of this.
And also, there's still trouble out in the old Rimworld republics for the Lyran Commonwealth. They annexed them.
Just to let you know, the Korean offensive against the Lyrans, the Lyrans crumbled like wet tissue paper. So guess what Minoru kept doing?
Kept attacking the Lyrans.
Yeah. And during this, the Federated Suns were basically just eating the hegemony's corpse. I actually have a little map here. It's kind of confusing, and you'd have to have like some schizo arrows to really explain what's going on in it. So Terran hegemony remnants, they're basically dead.
So after Kurita proclaims the issue of, the
we're First Lord.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The Capellans start declaring it. Then the Steiners
start
declare
going for it, and they start immediately. The Capellans go immediately in for the hegemony.
But then it's House Merrick, and then it's House Davian, and now, so pretty much by January 2787, every House Lord
it's a general conflict now.
Yep, everyone was chewing on its corpse until finally it becomes a war.
How's that one in the universe saying go? Never trust a Capellan, but shoot a Steiner on sight for the Free Worlds League.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, the exact terms, Krella Chief.
So, page 32.
Page 30, if you're looking at something there. New Dallas. This is the final stand of New Dallas. Basically, the
last stand of the Star League.
The hegemony, and the Star League. The militia is fighting pretty well, and then they just nuke them because it's just that's it.
So you have a lot of armies joining up with
various
armed forces.
Some of these are just small bits, like battalion here, regiment there,
Demi Brigade.
One of the fun ones.
what's funny, not that many joined the Free Worlds League, but a lot, I'd say, joining the Draconis.
Actually, a lot joined the CCAF as well. The CN Dragoons, for example, the entire 368th Battle Mech Division, which was 6 full regiments of Battle Mechs, joined the Capellans. There
Yep.
were
Oh.
various mechanized infantry formations as well, a few more light horse mechanized infantry regiments as well, some jump infantry, hussars, regiment of the 202nd.
And if you're wondering why it's specifically the Koreans and Capellans, again, the Capellans were the ones most willing to work with Kerensky. That likely established some good leeway. That's why they got so many. And again, the Koreans were aiding them consistently throughout the
Koreans didn't actually get that many. The Koreans mostly got a couple of battalions and mostly just regiment level formations.
And even then, they were given their
didn't get a lot of them
contract, because that's the big thing.
They didn't get a lot of them, and they were forced in there. The really interesting one is the entire Armed Forces of the Federated Sons, because here's one of the big ones they got. They got the first Crucis Lancers out of this. The 1008th Heavy Assault Regiment would become the first formation of the Crucis Lancers, followed by the second as well through the 91st Heavy Assault Regiment, and so on and so forth. The entire Crucis Lancers is formed basically out of the SLDF.
Then there's 11 different groups that become the Comstars forces, and what I actually find interesting is the mercenary and pirate groups, because you have several divisions or several battalions and regiments becoming pirates.
Yes, as I said, there's a lot. The ones joining the periphery, so most of these ended up being destroyed during the Civil War, but there are a few that, for example, the 29th CAAN joined the Canopians because it was like, well, what the fuck else do we have to go? Everything's gone to shit, and we couldn't get to Kerensky in time. Fuck it, we're here.
There's also the Mechanized Infantry Division, which became their Cuirassiers, or the Magistries Guards.
Yeah, I do love that the Outworlds Alliance managed to pick up like a regiment and a pair of battalions for a short time. The Taurians did not get it very well because those were defectors from in there, and the Red Chasseurs regiment of the Taurians ended up starting as one of the SLDF regiments. Kind of funny that.
Oh, I like this one. The AF 338th Ameris Fusiliers Regiment. Their name? Cameron's Curse.
Yeah, if you're wondering,
they went pirate.
They're one of Amaris's boys. They also, if I recall, they're not the ones that were like the most war crimey.
Yeah, if you take a look here,
I believe this Fusilier, I think we covered them, and they did some pretty interesting, horrible things.
That was the Gestapo.
That was a few other regiments. I don't think that was the same one. But if we're going to go into here, the more interesting ones is when you take a look at the mercenary units. For example, Northwind Highlanders joined up with they signed up with the Capellans.
Yep.
They were already extant, but basically put, this is kind of going on. The major
this feels like looking at like a list of
the 15th Drakon Regiment, the 4th Tau City Rangers became an entire thing. The 12th Star Guards were formed out of the Striker and Heavy Assault Regiments.
Well, no, what I'm saying, this is like reading a list of Warhammer Space Marine chapters from the legions that end up becoming second. Was it the second founding?
It was really interesting. If you didn't know, is that the Star Guards would actually be among the first forces to fight the clans. They were actually destroyed during the clan invasion, which is quite an irony. There's a few other forces that ended up there. Always faithful.
The Screaming Eagles. They actually joined the Federated Sons, and last but not least, the Fighting Uruk-hai.
They became contracts. This is who they took contracts with. For example, one of the more interesting ones is the 21st Rimworld's Regiment became part of the Blue Star Regulars, which is also one of the few SLDF units, and the Blue Star Regulars also, I think, fought the clans. I could be wrong on that.
Yep, it's one of the few Ameris Asides guys that survived.
They were created by 32 of the 37 recipients of the Blue Star Kerensky. Basically, they were one of the last made SLDF awards. Essentially, the colonel invited basically all of these recipients along with a bunch of other people to join in. They fought in the clan invasion as well.
what I do like this though, with the missing deactivator unaccounted, there are several divisions and regiments that are gone, but we don't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
Also, straight up, Second Mexican Legion, there they are. They joined the King's wild cards. Then you also have another 38th. Some of them join Raymond's Redcoats.
Yeah, one of the more interesting ones is the Fighting Urukai. Again, they also survived all the way into the really. They were one of those units that they were a mercenary unit that just managed to survive this entire time. The Lexicon combat group as well was, of course, a SLDF regiment that became a mercenary unit. The most famous, of course, of these is the Iridani Light Horse, but there's a few other kind of interesting ones. The Elysian Lancers, for example, I mentioned them before, is one of the forces that helped take back Terra for Kerensky. They also continued on by signing a contract. A few of the unaffiliated ones, of course, the Gravewalkers, which is one of those units that lasts fucking forever until they don't. They're legitimately a pre-Age of War, I think, formation or an Age of War formation. They managed to survive as mercenaries all the way to the Jihad, which is fucking impressive.
But then we finally have, I guess, the dawn of the Succession War itself, with Kurita's first actions.
Yeah, and then of course we have the wonderful MIA,
Mhm.
where we don't know where the fuck they went. We know that a few of these were deactivated. The 295th Battle Mech Division was stranded in the periphery at some point, and no one knows what happened to them. The 280th as well, we don't know. Some of these units went missing in action. 9th Royal Can, for example, was part of the 10th Army. Might have been anywhere really in the periphery. And probably just went native, a lot of these forces. Or they formed, minor parts of them formed mercenary units or joined up with other ones. It's hard to know because, holy fuck, there's a lot of shit going down in the First Succession War.
Yep. Speaking of which, so Kurita's Wars. So besides kicking the shit out of the Lyrans, they again
so they're working on it. Basically, one of the things that you can argue is that the entire attack on the Lyrans was never intended to be as successful as it was. That was just a happy accident. The real thing that they were doing was playing. They were feinting at the Commonwealth to make the Davians move more of their units to fight the Capellans, so that they could bring in their hammer blow.
Yeah, they actually say deliberately, if you are engaging the Davians, use minimal amounts of the might of the dragon.
Like minimal force right now. Like we are probing their defenses. We are figuring out where they're weak,
Oh,
and
no,
then
it's even
we are
crazier.
going to strike.
It's even crazier than that. There was an order that limited retreat was allowed, which means that they were willing to let worlds get taken just to really sell that they don't have anything there.
To really sell that they're totally devoted to the Lyran front, and then they swing down into the the Federated Sons with basically a sledgehammer blow, and there's nothing standing in their way.
They take Carthago, Clovis, Olancha,
and
Rout.
It's kind of it's one of those things where it's like for example, the Barlow's folly happens, which is one of these kind of just like Michael Barlow kind of goes into this fucking fighting retreat, which ends up renaming a fucking planet, which is just kind of hilarious. But anyway, a lot of the interesting bits is that for example, Clovis actually didn't use a lot of like orbital artillery or anything like on it, but other worlds did. There's a lot of major problems for the Federated Sons right off the bat. For example, there's a bulge of worlds around Paris, right? The Paris salient, that they gets hit so fucking hard, and it's a critical location for the Federated Sons if they want to maintain any sort of defensive line. It's gone. It's fucked. Because the way that this invasion went off is it made it look around the bulge that, it's not that bad. It's just raiding. It's okay. And then no, it was not. They went world by world. cut off communication.
And the reason this worked was because the Combine again did a this is impressive. They synchronized their jumps to attack simultaneously,
yes, they did.
which
This was
caused
their
the
major.
frontline commanders to panic, and the further back line basically were dealing with stale orders because they were so quick. They already established air dominance and cut communications.
Yeah, 3
So
days into the region, they'd already pretty much won the salient.
yeah.
Uh, so and
In fact,
the
Barlow's
the
folly,
and
the Kusar, is a rare example of the Confederated Sons actually holding shit. And even then, they were
Even then,
horrified
they
when they
still
realized.
lost.
like they're losing companies and battalions of mechs left and
Battalions,
right.
they lost like
Yeah,
regiments and
to
shit.
give you an idea, within like a year, within a short time period, most of all the way to Kentares is basically out. Like Mallory's World, Galatia 3, the entirety of like Kassar, which would become again Barton. New Iverson gets taken, which is pretty important. Robinson especially is important production wise. There is so much that gets lost. They take like 20 to 30 worlds in the first offensive, and it's just like they don't stop. They
And
get
then
all the way to the borders of New Avalon by the end of the first decade of conflict. They're literally within a jump.
there's the Battle
Oh
of
no, like
Lome.
within a month, it's legitimately like within a month they took an entire region.
So
Yeah,
like the Battle of Colombia is this big naval battle, and the end result is the Federated Sons losing 92 warships, 62
yes.
jump ships, 115 drop ships, and all of its fighter wings.
However, that was after the first bit of Chalome because there was a mistake. The part of this is that everybody's learning again. How do we fight a naval war
A large
again?
scale war too, by the way.
A large scale naval war. And the answer to that is we don't fucking know, and we're gonna make a lot of fucking mistakes.
Also, we're going to go full hard, balls deep, destroy everything. Oh, and also to give you an idea, the Korean offensive was so effective that like the Federated Sons were actually fighting the Capellans. They had to essentially completely cancel offensives. They had to pull most of their army out and essentially plug the gaps. Even then, it was still crumbling.
Yeah, by 2796, it's basically like over the course of roughly the decade-long offensive, it's already at the borders of New Avalon. Like it's pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, like one of the big factors that Davian realizes really early on is so they're crushing. They have superiority on the planet, which, if you're wondering, very simple, very simple idea. If have control over planet can put unit where want to crush people on planet.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the border fighting is happening as well over in again. There's a lot of shit that's getting covered here.
Like this is primarily just dealing with Korea because Korea pretty much nearly knocked them out.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
page 44 shows us just
How far Korea have managed to push into Federated Sun space.
Yeah, like the Federated Sons came damn close to collapsing. Like here's how bad it got. Look at that.
that light bit and then the darker bit in the middle. That is what they got
Yeah.
within a period of 10 years.
Yeah, let's also not forget that the Combine and the Commonwealth are both fighting each other. There's a lot of naval battles and a lot of naval exchanges along this very wide front.
Yep.
That's basically just opportunistic attacks from both sides. It doesn't go incredibly well.
Let's see.
But
Yeah,
then,
For
you see the
but
part where New
there is an issue.
Avalon almost got capped? Look at that. Look at that. There it is.
It-
yeah,
Odell's
but
taken.
right, in any case, most of the ship, like a lot of the warship navies, are getting absolutely hammered in this first decade. Like,
Because most of
fuck,
the
it's
technical
not very good
experience.
for.
Well, because none of them ever fought. Like the ones that did left. All of those guys left.
Yeah, and
Because unlike the army,
there's some
because out of the army, about I think 18% left, stayed behind. Like it ain't much, but it's like you got experience from that. I think maybe
yeah.
5% of the Navy stuck around, and most of them joined Comstar.
Yeah, and Lyran kind of there's an attempted raid on Hesperus that doesn't go too well for Kurita. The first battle of Hesperus ends in a victory for the Steiners. It's basically a deep raid to try to take out the mech production plants. Yeah.
And if you're wondering what killed the Korean offensive, it's legitimately Minoru Kurita was actually getting concerned that he might get cut off because basically there was a pocket that like around Renel and Addix that he could not crush, and he was getting concerned.
And also
about
on
that.
Cantares, there's another rebellion around there. It's like
he was very concerned that they might
mop
get cut.
this up.
Yeah, they might get cut, and if that's the case, they're dead.
Consolidate position, because at this point, like they're on the ropes.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's right there. Just keep them on the ropes, and we can finish them off. We just need to consolidate position, and we can finish them right off.
And because they were getting their shit pressed in and absolutely fucking destroyed by Kurita, the Capellans come to play.
And then there's the really crazy shit. So Liao comes in, of course, but there's also the fighting in the Combine, as I mentioned, of Raid on Hesperus too. They're exchanging worlds along the border. The major thing, though, is that if you hit the page 51...
No. I have to describe the dumbest thing that Minoru Kurita ever did. Barbara Liao basically goes, okay, I know you can never trust a Capellan, but... okay, we're going to destroy...
mutual non-aggression pact.
And Kurita, because he was kicking Davian's ass so bad, said, get the fuck out of here, bitch.
Like, unless you're going to declare me First Lord, fuck off.
Yep. So a little bit of his pride, although, to be fair, again, Capellans, you can't really trust their words. You really can't. I mean, at least you don't have to shoot him on sight like a Steiner, but, you know things are great when you have a kill on sight order for you.
Yeah, in any case, the major...
Scandia?
No, it's page 51, because again, we can kind of... I want to keep this moving so that we don't spend... the entire...
Jerome Blake.
Yeah, Blake's first real move.
Oh, by the way, check out this tongue shit. Look at that. The Liar and Border Clashes. Sorry, I just wanted to show that.
So the House Lords, they did agree on one thing. They decided to make Jerome Blake the leader of the Comstar because, well, they like their communications.
Well, no, he basically was the head of, at this point, he was one of the chief technical officers for the defunct SL Comnet. And by this point, he, if I recall, I think he has not control of Terra, but basically he's aiding in the reconstruction of it. He
also did, he wanted to make sure that Comstar had neutrality, that literally there was not the sort of same destruction to Comstar.
Well, I mean, think about it from his point of view.
That was going to happen.
You're an Amish bearded guy, right? Like, you got your Amish beard. You're contemplating, like, screaming at the corporate executives because they don't understand a damn thing about your technology. You just saw the equivalent of financial suicide from the center of this company, in this case, the entire civilization of humanity, rip its own guts out and lose critical technology. Not massive amounts, but still not pretty. You would probably, and now you're seeing that the other aspects of humanity have decided to take the idiot ball and also drag everyone else down to the same level as 30 light years within Terra. Because, again, gassings and nukes were very commonly used for that rapid offensive power. So, with that point of view, with your Amish beard and your good old friend Toyama, what would you do? Probably try to guarantee that the tech nodes don't break.
And here's how they did it. They decided to have the communications protocol, which establishes Comstar's neutrality, open use of the HPG networks, establishment of the Comstar letter of credit, and, well, Steiner welcomed it as long as all the other House Lords did the same. So here's what he did. He lied. He created documents that had forged signatures, claiming that the other four lords signed it already.
And how Steiner,
basically, he went to each of them and said, well, all of them have signed it. Everybody else has signed it, so you should too. And because you control the communications network, guess what? They believe you.
The best part is he starts it by going to the Steiners. It's like, oh yeah, these guys are the stupidest motherfuckers to ever exist on this universe. So
And then in 2078, the H3G network on Terra fell silent again.
Why? Because there's a little funny business called Operation Silver Shield. So basically put, they resecure the Terra from.
And the entire solar system.
Yeah. The more interesting section off of this, the result really is that Comstar establishes itself as an independent neutral power, which is incredibly crucial for what's to come, because you can argue that no matter what the motivations here on Comstar's part later on, this is the thing that saves everything from going completely fucking tits up during the Succession Wars.
By the way, all of the House Lords,
As much
they're
fuckery as
pissed.
Comstar bowls.
They're pissed at this point, but they also realize he could just completely cut all communications.
That won't really be realized fully into the next Succession War, but
Fair
the
enough.
threat alone, more accurately, we don't want to deal with this shit. We let the nerd do it, is kind of the attitude, where they don't quite realize right now what actually Blake is doing.
Especially, yeah, let's be fair, this is also during the part where they're
They're a
of
little
fighting for their
busy.
lives.
Yeah,
They're a little busy with trying to nuke each other back into the Stone Age, all right? Like whatever's happening on Earth is irrelevant. It's
But
like
they
that's
are
the prize
salty.
for later.
They are so salty.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this? Earth is now under control by a communications company. Just
let me. This is Amazon taking over. Bezos and his hit squads have taken over the planet.
No,
All right.
This is like if Amazon, T-Mobile,
Wait,
Verizon,
who's the
Fios.
last? Hold on.
or what?
Does
No,
AOL still exist?
yes, it does.
It
It
does.
does. But I would say it would say basically this the tier one internet providers, if they literally said, "We are shutting down the internet if you don't make us the rulers of the world."
All right, AOL still exists, and their executive's name is Tim Armstrong. So I guess it's like if Tim Armstrong took over the government. No one
Tim
would
Armstrong
expect it.
hires on a bunch of highly paid former SDLF who decided to stay with him to take over the country. Like he hired the he hired one of the airborne divisions to like take Washington D.C.
It gets
Essentially,
kind of
that's what happened.
nuts.
Well, I mean, he did probably resolve the Indian problem. So yeah, no, he says without bloodshed.
Yeah. They're able to do quite a bit. There is some fighting, but they take over. In any case,
This is
it's
when it's still
time
a
to.
company, by the way. This is not the techno cultists they become.
Yeah, and well, they're still planning on becoming it. But in any case, Blake, the aftermath, of course, is right.
Hey, it's House Eagle time. It's Eagle time.
Yeah,
They're
Purple
fighting.
Bird's strong. Purple Bird has the best time in this Succession War, arguably. They manage. Steiner and Merrick is escalating into raids mostly, and because you see, Kenyon sees something very important. There's a force even weaker than he is right now, and it's right next to him. And
The Capellans.
Yes.
It's the Capellans.
Because they're
The
busy.
Capellans.
They're busy fighting the Federated Sons. This is a pretty good time, especially since they had to scratch build their army. Like, remember, this is the mostly light mech company. Like, yeah.
The Capellans don't have a lot of heavy equipment even now. Well, like even after this
And
buildup,
they had to scrabble 30 divisions, 30 regiments out of
30
nothing.
regiments together out of nothing. And yeah, they had some SLDF guys come in, and yeah, they have a few like other bits of things.
The path to Sarna.
The path to Sarna. So basically, the League just goes and fucking wrecks their way through it. They go right for Sarna.
Because the logic is Merrick wants to absolutely fuck all over their industrial complex and basically take their military academy to just show it off.
The basic plan is just to fuck them up. Now, this didn't go that well for them long time. The major problem
he misread Barbara Liao.
Yeah,
because
he
he
thought
thought
that
she
this
was
would
a lot
force her to
weaker.
surrender. Yeah, he thought that this would terrify her into a surrender. It didn't actually work out that way. The Liao's response is incredibly violent, also known as the New Delos Massacre.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
joy. Let's see what happens.
Basically, they issue an ultimatum, which is, you see, when Liao attacks, right, they have a bit of an issue. There's a lot of civilian casualties from Merrick doing Merrick things.
Because they use militia and they like to raid.
Yeah.
So here's what
So they
apparently
decide to Delos, which hey, surrender. You have 8 hours to comply, or we start the bombing.
By the way, the
They
best
don't
part,
comply.
no,
They
you forget
start
the
the
best
bombing.
part. You forget the best part. They also time it because their navy wasn't
Yeah.
as good as Merrick's, so they time it so their navy was in the middle of shifting,
Yeah.
and
Most
they
of the damage there was like most of the losses for the Capellans are incredibly light. Most of the damage to civilians, roughly
20,000
Oh no,
killed,
it's even
10
better.
and
times wounded.
It's even better. Like even before the timeline ran out. Oh no, the Capellans were already on kill on site orders.
yeah, and for that matter, the fallout of this though was that the league basically decided that it's now counter value strike. Ingersoll ends up getting devastated by a firebombing raid from a Merrick carrier. It intended basically that they weren't even like industrial targets. They were literally commercial resorts and tourist sites that they
Yes,
targeted.
because that's what Liao did. They intentionally aimed for the civilian
That
sectors.
that's what the Free Worlds League did.
No, the Capellans did it first. So Merrick responded by doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it kind of got nasty. There's a lot of firebombing on both sides, and basically there's a very large section of worlds. If you take a look on page 59, gives us a nice little map of the conflict where the Free Worlds League unequivocally comes out the victors in this fight.
Mainly
Look at that.
because House Liao was too busy trying to basically out gang them Chicago method style.
Yeah, there are some reversals, but for the most part,
It's a consistent victory on their end, yeah.
it's pretty consistently
Consistent Eagle W. Purple Bird
and
W.
it of course became personal by the end of it. The Endurians were having trouble, all this. Hesperus, though, is where we get into all this. The Confederation is not doing very well. There's a lot of damage. There's a lot of fucking deaths.
They just didn't have the military
It's
set up.
nasty. It's nasty. Now the Capellan Confederation is pretty dense in worlds, but even like this is like they're not gonna hold out for forever.
Especially given America, after you did that to New Delos, you opened it to full black flags. Okay.
Who knew that? Who knew that spiral theory? Well,
The
kind of doesn't
escalation.
work.
Who knew that the escalation ladder was an actual thing and would people would fucking climb it? Gee golly.
Drop the hyper anthrax down there. What? Not on the Castle Bryan? No, leave the Castle
No, just
Bryan.
drop it.
Have them
Drop
watch.
it like it's hot.
Have those soldiers watch as their families get hyper anthraxed, and then just leave after insulting them. That's kind of what happened on the borders between these two.
So, yeah, like, nuclear winter is just becoming common now.
Yeah. Like as I said, the Succession War, the opening stage, the Nukening is not an inaccurate way to describe it. Because at this point, everyone's tossing out the WMDs like they're goddamn candy, and it's Halloween.
It's also really funny.
Or there's a
because
bunch of topless co-eds, and
No.
you've got a bunch of beads at Mardi Gras.
Compare this to the Ameri Civil War. Compare it to that, and you could just see the lack of restraint from these idiots. Because even Ameris, for all of his craziness, only busted out the nukes as he was losing. Although I will say they are smarter and not destroying themselves to, destroy
So
the other guys.
they do make a side note here on page 66 about the vacuum war and, well, the issues with naval producers. The thing is
Yes.
that a lot of Navy producers were in the Terran hegemony.
Right,
Yeah.
and they were among the first targets, either by Ameris or by various house forces, because, well, we're not going to be able to take it. Fuck them. They can't take it either. And at which point they launch the nukes and they hit those yards and they fucking blow them up. Now, the raids for Hesperus, though, this is a fun series of things. So to understand, House Steiner is only saved in this conflict by the fact that no one's actually paying too much attention to them, because they have been incompetent throughout this.
Also, on top of that, from what I kind of skimmed, they're going through a civil war at this point, just
They
because
kind
of
of
how
are.
bad, because of how
They're,
fucking bad this went. A literal civil war, a power struggle is emerging from within
there's a
the
power
family.
struggle inside of the world. There's the Rimworld's Republic insurgency that's happening as well. Everything is kind of going into an absolute fucking nightmare zone, and then there's a bunch of raids on Hesperus too. Remember, Hesperus 2 was one of the major SLDF factories. It was made by the Terran hegemony to produce battle mechs. It is one of the primary battle mech facilities in the setting. It has an entire continent that is essentially dedicated just to military material and production. It is the closest Battletech has to a Forge world.
And on top of that, if you're wondering, this Hesperus goes through 3 phases. The first battle is against the Draconis Combine.
The Chrono Combine does not do too well. The second battle is against Davian. A lot of its raids. The major problem that Hesperus has during all of this is that it's a prime target that if you take it, or at the very least take what's being made and squirrel it away, you can completely shift the strategic balance of power if you could destroy it, for instance. That'd be
Because it's
really
one of
fucking
the
hard to do.
largest. It's one of the largest
But
still
if you can
operational
put it out of
facilities.
action even for a year or two, that would basically fuck Steiner incredibly hard. They rely extremely heavily on Hesperus, mostly because they were able to seize it during the collapse of Star League, and well, repurpose the industrial might of the SLDF for their own purposes.
Speaking of which, that's why Davian also decided to do raids. It wasn't seriously trying to take; it's just legitimately to deny them assets.
It's just literally just deny Steiner unlimited access to the mechworks. Just make it so
The
they have
Suns
to
also
station
lost,
units
but the
there and
entire point was just to slow down production.
slow down production,
Also,
tie down units there, and more show that we can actually do something as we're getting fucked everywhere else.
we're getting absolutely
We're still in
destroyed
it,
by
guys.
Kurita.
We're still in it.
We're still
So-
not. We've gotten fucking destroyed by the dragon.
I'm not dead. It's he's
The
not dead yet.
Capellans are kicking us in our rib cage. Draconis Combine broke her back. Has a boot to our throat, squishing our fucking neck muscles into pulp. I'm feebly spazzing on the ground, frothing at the mouth, but I managed to piss blood in the general direction of House Steiner. I'm still in the fight.
Kinda, yeah. There are
Yeah,
a lot of battles in
the
Hesperus throughout the
Federated
Succession
Sons got
Wars.
fucking wrecked in this one.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
And last but not least,
So-
Merrick.
Yeah.
Merrick really went hard on this one because
It's really close to their borders. If they take it, boom, that's it.
They win.
Steiner's they win. Like, you remember, America, when we were covering everything, America's like the second largest economy in the inner sphere at this point.
Yep.
The largest is the Steiners. If they take Hesperus, they get their hands on the largest battle mech facility on the
permanently
inner sphere.
shifting it so that the Commonwealth collapses while the League expands.
Well, it's not just that they
Well,
would
not
be able
collapses,
to
but
do that. It's
diminishes.
that it would allow the League to concentrate, because the League has a decent amount of battle mech production facilities. Irian, for example. But none of them are on the scale that Hesperus is.
Nope.
Taking Hesperus and being able to, say, grab that machinery and run would be a huge thing for the League. Like, that would be an amazing not only an amazing technical coup, but it would completely obliterate the ability of House Steiner to rapidly resupply their armies. It's their objectives with a lot of these raids is literally not to just like bomb everything to nothing. It's to try to seize as much of the production material as possible.
And if you're wondering, it culminates in one of the bloodiest naval battles over the orbital sphere of Hesperus. which
Yeah,
essentially
it gets
breaks the
nasty.
back of both. It breaks the back of one of Steiner's fleets and basically crushes Merrick's fleet too.
Yeah, like as I
By
said,
the
the
end of
first
this,
succession war is the one where there's the most naval engagement because everybody has warships and they're willing to use them.
Yep.
The anticipation of we need to make this quick has completely upended any sort of strategic planning for the long term. So everyone is going full force as fast as possible rather than having anything in reserve. There is no reserve. As the friendship said, is the British are asking the French after like the fucking collapse in the Ardennes. Like, so where's the reserve? There is no reserve. What
No,
reserve?
you forget the best part. To really sell home how balls in the Steiners went to basically defend Hesperus, they actually were crazy enough to send like boarding action spam and tried to seize Merrick's
Yeah,
fleet.
they were like people again. We shit on the Lyrans a bit because the Lyrans are incompetent assholes who rarely ever win.
They're the Italians basically. It's their commanding
They are.
officers who suck. Their soldiers are
They
fine.
really do. They really do. There's some exceptions. Usually the
It's
Sky
their
Rangers are
soldiers.
okay.
It's their
But
infantry and non-com officers that are good.
yeah,
And they have
even
good
then,
equipment. It's just
Steiner is
Wait,
Steiner.
what do you mean? What do you mean? That not having a meritocracy harms your military?
look. I'm basically saying that it's like if Italy had America's budget during World War II. So yeah, they're better kitted than everyone else, but they're led by basically an army of Lloyd Frednalls.
Oh
Oh
God,
God,
it's
I
just
could
Douglas
I could
MacArthur.
imagine
It's just an
I could
entire command staff of Douglas MacArthur's.
No,
I could
MacArthur's
imagine
more
tanks
competent.
with Il Duce's that bust of him just in front of those tanks. It
Oh,
serves no purpose.
I love the idea that the head of each of these tanks look like Mussolini's face, and it just has the letter C put on, like CCC put on them.
Yeah.
So speaking of dictators, or at least
Oh, by
authoritarian
the way,
rulers,
this is the last moment that this mech pilot was alive, or probably the very first second that they're dead.
Yeah.
Vacuum
Now,
ore, Fist of Defiance,
so
Steiner's campaigns. So yeah, the Archon fucking dies during the power struggle. This is something that
yep.
happens in the backdrop. Basically, the power
there's a
struggle
major power
results
struggle
in
happening inside of the Commonwealth because the Commonwealth was not expecting this to kick off, despite doing everything they could to make it kick off. It's one of those things where they're assuming that they can have a quick campaign in Bolin. It's it's going to be over. We'll take the Bolin thumb away from the Merricks, and that'll be a quick and easy, decisive campaign that will then allow us to basically assume the hegemony of the sphere.
and then
and the
Draconic
Lyrans, yeah. So the Lyrans adopt a strategy of essentially massive raids to weaken the defenders prior to their final assaults.
Well, initially it was just to smack the shit out of Merrick really quickly using nukes and hard. But when the Combine kicked in, they changed strategy.
Yeah, because remember the initial stuff that they were doing with Merrick was like this heavy-handed. We're throwing everything we are at the wall. The problem with that was massive casualties.
The problem with that, massive casualties and incompetent officers hitting, because Merrick knew that this was going to happen.
Yeah, minimal gain. So the raiding strategy becomes adopted by basically everyone in the succession wars from this point onward, as larger formations essentially get ground down to nothing.
They got grounded down to nothing, but also
units.
The other reason is the Lyrans also don't want to draw because they saw what the hell happened to Davian. They're trying to avoid that.
They're trying to avoid that, and unironically, if it's funny because if Kurita had just gone after Steiner in this first succession, we're like, if they'd said, nah, Davian's not worth the effort right now, and just gone full slamming into Steiner, they probably would have taken Hesperus. Like, they would have been able to take so much.
I'm just envisioning Kurita going, and then another timeline he goes, you know what? They're losing so bad, I'm going to change my strategy.
Yeah, that said,
just to be fair,
the strategy to try to kick out the Suns was actually a pretty solid one.
It was it was effective, very, very dangerously effective. It's just his arrogance combined with Capellan nonsense that kind of.
Yeah, I mean the Capellans. Let's be
You
fair to the
still can't
Capellans here.
trust
No,
them, but like even a brief non-aggression pact, where even if they pay lip service, would have been better.
yeah, like
Like
any
even if
sort of
they're
non-aggression
lying and
pact and
planning some bullshit,
coordination.
it's
Yeah,
still better.
but it's Kirita. They do what they do.
But yeah,
Never change.
so what happens is there's power struggles. What ultimately it culminates in, during a raid, the Archon fucking dies because of
Yep.
basically triggering a trap and getting exploded into pulp.
Yeah. This
Because
isn't the first
they
time
were
that that's
trying to
happened in
show off,
Archon.
like, no, we're strong. We have our glorious leader here. Oh God, she exploded into giblets.
Yeah, it doesn't go well for her.
She explodes into 5,000 hyper-realistic flaps of blood.
It's a chunky salsa.
And so it then falls to her son, Richard Steiner, who takes the points Lieutenant General Graham Kelsois, who's the commander of the Tamar Tigers, that had all of the Lyran forces against the Combine.
Like at this point, it's like the best.
So this is where the Steiners start winning, because they start using actual military generals.
So what happens is Richard Steiner, he is brand new to leadership, to establish his dominance, because again his mother Jennifer was going through some power plays. He basically fires, like, he spends a year firing most of his generals just to ensure that he's the one you fucking listen to.
Yeah,
And he
the
gets
Bull and
lucky.
Thumb campaign
No, he gets lucky because the guys he hires back, well, not amazing,
are actually
they're
good.
competent to good.
Yeah. So page 69, nice, starts out the basically the reconquest of the Thumb.
Operation
So,
Sharkfin Snoop. Also, the reason he decides to focus on the Combine, yeah, they're coming close to killing the Suns. I can't let that happen. Not because we like them, but because if they collapse, we're fucked.
yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
That's Richard's logic. We need to
If they
make
collapse,
sure.
we are actually fucked.
Yeah.
So, for example, Bolin goes, they win it, but it's like the damage that they take is so fucking high, it's not even like
Yeah.
worth it. And like the amount of weapons of mass destruction that get thrown out are absolutely fucking insane. The major damage that they take to these units is incredibly high. And at this point, the League retaliations are actually pretty fucking brutal to the Lyrans. Every one of these asterisks next to a unit is a unit that basically got fucking destroyed. If there's two asterisks by the victor column, it's because there were WMDs deployed.
Yeah.
As you can see, the Free Worlds League's retaliation involves a lot of fucking nuclear weapons.
Because guess who started
Purple
the nukes?
Bird Strunk. Purple Bird Strunk.
You nuke Purple Bird will use 10 more on you specifically, and your family, and anyone who sold you sandwiches. Don't fuck with them.
So
only they are allowed to kill each other.
Yeah, page 76 gives us the results of the conflict.
Now, just to highlight the League retaliations, let's take a look. There's 6 worlds that were in effect. Oh God, half of them were killed to a man.
Yeah, like they go fucking hard in the retaliation. The Commonwealth then starts to goes in and they try to retake worlds that were lost. Then there's a few counterattacks by the League. Doesn't go exactly as to plan. Commonwealth goes through a conquest. They end up sacrificing one military unit which was basically just a mercenary unit. And then it kind of keeps going down. There's the second Lyran guards gets destroyed. There's a lot of losses, a lot of heavy losses for the.
By the way, this is the greatest. Like the guy who did the Bull and Thumb campaign, which by the way was so bloody that yeah, he was rewarded for it. He was given a military.
Well, yeah,
reward.
because it was successful. Hasseldorf, he did it. It's just it was a slow, bloody slog.
What did it cost you, Hasseldorf? I think like
not much from me.
Like
not much from me, but a lot from other people.
50 regiments, I think.
Yeah, it kind of the Bull and Thumb had finally fallen. And by the way, that
It
had been a
wasn't
thing
50,
since
but
the
it
Age
was
of
still
War.
horrifying. It was still like, to give you a comparison on how nasty the Bolin's Thumb is, just going back up to the number of units that were fucking wiped. Let's go.
Let's
1,
see.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they experienced basically a
11,
tenth of
12,
what
13,
happened in the periphery
14.
world.
Yeah, it went pretty bad for everyone involved in that campaign.
By the way, this is when the competent members of House Steiner came into charge.
finally, though, the major Steiner War Machine was still getting its ass handed to it by Kurita. There's mostly defensive, using raids to keep out there. The Bull and Thumb campaign was really the only offensive one, and that was still not extremely successful. There is a lot of stuff with the
I would say that the Lyran's success in the first Succession War was to not lose Hesperus, and that's it.
that's really their big thing.
That's their
If you
big
take a look
W.
at the Free Worlds League and Lyran Commonwealth, remember the thing about the Bowl and Thumb is that the Bowl and Thumb was taken originally from the Commonwealth by the Free Worlds League during the Age of War after a really stupid Steiner attack on the Free Worlds League, where basically this one Chad Merrick just takes that entire region of space by himself, pretty much.
And it took
Before
them
the
about
Steiners,
10 years to grind down the entire thing.
yeah, it
Which,
was pretty
yes, that's
fucking impressive.
dignity. That's dignity reclaimed, but at what fucking cost?
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
as
is, this,
Trail
is
Chief is asking, is the first section war where the little ghost unit of Steiner mechs came from?
I think that's where they're working on the strategy.
The Ghost unit.
I don't think so, maybe.
Let me look over that. What he means there.
Wait, is this
It's
when
a weapon to
Solaris
surpass
became
Metal
a
Gear.
Lyran
Oh,
world?
the Ghost unit. Well, I mean, yeah, because a lot of them fucking died. That'd be a Ghost unit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ghost units, but not, I think you might be thinking maybe more of the second one.
Yeah, you might be. In any case, the fighting along the line is just it's bloody. It's awful. They eventually take Solaris.
And eventually also declare its neutrality.
Yeah, Solaris 7 is the big one.
Oh, by the way, Bella 1 kind of becomes their version of the Isonzo River. Holy shit, so many battles happened that they actually destroyed the equipment to leave the place.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, Major Landmass's customs facility, the Fierce raiding has already destroyed the system's Zenith recharge system, and the 2 transfer stations that remain in planetary orbits have become aerodromes.
Yeah, so that's one of the other things I should mention about Battletech's FTL. So essentially, there are ways to quick charge your drive. There's a safe way, which is using a normal, regular recharging station, and then there's the dangerous way, which is to overload your engine. Good luck surviving the next jump, but you will be able to jump again. This is one of the those things where these recharge stations become an incredibly important strategic asset for all sides, which is also why a lot of them get destroyed in the Succession Wars.
Yep.
To deny enemy use of, there's an enemy raider that can go to deep into my space and,
It's one of the
just
few Lyran W's because they were able to get it. As for how they eventually get Bella 1, so as the Lyrans went through some minor political issues, yeah, the Free Leagues by this point, they start collapsing a little bit.
Yeah, they're able to get through the Solaris campaign, and then we get into the real fun shit,
By the way,
which
here's
is
the border
Liao
changes here.
nuking everything.
Wait, that wasn't happening before?
By the way, if you're wondering, yes, this is where they regain Solaris, the Solaris Bulge. This is where it happens.
Well, you see, before this, most of the use by
Here
Liao
you go.
forces.
Here's House Liao doing what they do best. Look at
Most of the time, Liao forces, when they're using WMDs, it's a strategic level usage, right? This is retaliation campaigns or to essentially eliminate units that are stuck in cities or whatever else that they can't get to without sacrificing way too many of their units. And because it's Liao, they're constantly outnumbered. So to even the battlefield. The general trick now is that basically every unit is carrying tac nukes. Every unit,
Which, to be
Even the
fair,
mechs.
well, like,
even the mechs.
dude, they're using like a shitload of grasshoppers because that's all they got.
Well, they got a lot of grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are great though. Like they're a fantastic heavy
I
metal.
like the unit.
Yeah, but they got a lot of like shit that's
They've got a lot of damage. They've been taking a lot of damage. The most thing is that like the loss of Nagasaki was so quickly and decisively for the last 4 years of the League's victory of House of Yao's forces, and they fought pretty fucking fair compared to the most of this stuff. So basically, the major thing that Liao does is that again, they mostly start when their rating is that they'll use these tactical WMDs, you know, in in like a raid. Like we need to destroy a factory, we're going to deploy the WMD. Their tactical usage. We're not. They're not doing strategic like counter value. Uh, they're doing counter force strikes and things like that with them. They're going specifically in to do a well, raids.
And if you're wondering why they're doing this, specifically after as you mentioned, after Anagasaki, the Free Worlds League, because they're kind of committed to stopping Steiner at this point because of they managed to regain the thumb. The whole thing is they halt offensives, and the Capellans are very much like, yeah, you stay the fuck away. And that's one of the big reasons they start spamming nukes. Basically, get the fuck away. We got all these nukes, and we won't stop using them.
The major problem though is that Barba dies during this the planning for the counteroffensive against the Free Worlds League.
Assassination
and both of her
or
grandsons are
just
dead. Rare blood disorder.
On top of that, it's even worse. She dies, and her 2 sons died earlier during this war.
Right.
Oh no.
Both of them
Who's
died at
granddaughter
Galloway.
Ilsa. Yeah, so her granddaughter Ilsa
12 years
is doing
old.
it. So Sandal Quinn is the one that's declared basically in charge for right now. Quinn's war goes kind of okay. A lot of his success is in using mercenary units as the hammer. They are better trained and oftentimes more used to this sort of fighting. And there are also a lot of them are ex-SLDF. Or trained by people who are ex-SLDF, comparatively speaking.
The other thing that's really benefiting Quinn, by the way, is moving the main drive of the Capellans' war efforts to the Suns. Because A, the Suns are fucking dying at this point still. And B, it kind of allows them, it kind of keeps that area frozen. It's more of a benefit. Yeah.
In any case, they're able to push through. And
because the Davians are getting shit on all over.
The Capellans are also, of course, fighting. Of course, they're also fighting Kurita during this time because Kurita is an asshole and they will fight everybody.
Yep. Again, First Succession War, more like House Davian constantly is a walking L. Holy shit.
Constantly getting absolutely fucked.
Eternal losers. That's what they are in this fucking
war.
In
any case, Quinn wants to take Chesterton and just says, well, I can't take it safely, so I'm not going to do it. Absolute Chad move that he doesn't fuck up his own state over his own personal goals. He then stands down and gives away...
yeah, he's surprisingly competent.
A Capellan that actually gives a shit?
Now, the next step, though,
they all
kind
of do. It's just in
Kenny
and
Merrick
way.
died just before his 70th birthday. Thaddeus was in the field at the time. There's some problems going on. The main problem, though, is the Duchy of Oriente. So, the Duchy of Oriente is not exactly happy with the idea of the Free Worlds League now being effectively a military dictatorship.
Especially since Oriente's constantly caused Merrick trouble. Like the Merrick's trouble, if I recall.
They sometimes do, yes. Now, Oriente then kicks out all the federal Free Worlds League troops. The Capellans realize, wait a second, we've got open season for a raid. And they do. Not only that, but rather than the Merrick responding, they let it happen.
They actually take all of their forces out and basically said, have fun, go, do a crime. And they do.
So eventually, though, There is an invasion attempt. Doesn't actually go pretty. Goes kind of iffy. It goes badly, but either then, they still absolutely
No,
they
actually,
still
I would
absolutely
say
did a lot
this
of
is a
damage to
tight.
the league during
They
this.
did,
They
but
went a little too far, but they still did an absolute fucking
Tack, look, they lost to militia. They got their shit beat back by fucking militia. That's it.
in the second and third ones. The first one went pretty well. The second and third did not go too well.
No, the first one's still an absolute failure. Like, they still lost. They just did a lot of damage.
Well, yeah, that was the whole point. Was that this is a raid. This is not meant
A
to be like
raid. A raid. Oh, are they going with the special operation approach where they lost, like...
no, this is a raid. This is the
Yes, raids where they suffered massive amounts of fucking... I'm reading it right here, dude.
the first one is yeah, they took a lot of casualties, but they had timetables. It was a raid. It was like, if we don't get it done by now, we get out.
Still, I
And
think that's a failure.
it's a failure, but the thing is that it's like, we can still do it. They try it again. It doesn't go as well. Now, that said, they can't oppose the warships. It's the fighting on the ground that goes badly. The last one is the last attempt to try to get into that, where the Free Worlds League actually finally responds. And
You gotta love how petty
they're
Thaddeus
almost
Merrick
able
is.
to overrun Oriente. And then the Free Worlds League actually realizes this would be a really bad thing to have fucking happen.
Wait. I'm dumb? I'm massively fucking dumb?
Yeah,
I'm the dumbest motherfucker on the planet?
yeah. As I said, it went bad. It went bad for everyone during it. Arguably, the CCAF took the worst losses, but Oriente got completely fucked. Like, I can't
Because
even stress
Thaddeus
enough
is
that
a
that was
petty idiot.
Yeah, now that said, the CCAF would now go on to defensive for basically the rest of the war, but they did do a lot of damage to Merrick to the point where they couldn't really retaliate.
I'm gonna be frank, this is way dumber than the Amara Civil War by a lot. Hey,
Yes.
This whole
yeah,
fight,
I'm gonna intentionally crash one of the constituent member states, and also, if they really succeed, they could actually plunge into my back with a twist. Oh no! Oh no! I think
it
it's one
is
of those birds. You know those bred pigeons that like have brain damage because of they're groomed for like their particular feather coloration or
they're
whatever. And
fancy pigeons.
they're one of
Yeah,
the fancy, like, this is a fancy pigeon. This ain't purple eagle. This is a fancy pigeon, like, frothing on the ground, banging its head on the floor.
yeah, and again, Capellans are kind of like, they at least try.
No,
I'll
no,
give them
no
this.
offense, but Thaddeus Merrick is now one of the dumbest people I've ever seen, ever, as a human.
In any case, the next up is our favorite war crime of the First Succession War, Kentares 4.
Hey!
Give it up for Kentares 4, everyone.
So, in 2796, there was an insurrection in Kentaris 4. Kentaris hold massive war material, so they need to suppress that. Mioru decided to personally lead his 6th Sword of Light Battletech back to Kentaris.
And even ends up along with on foot moving through a town, like on foot, because it's showing the
he ordered his team to admiring the beauty of the landscape. He orders his team to stop. He dismounts his battlemaster.
He's probably going to go
With
compose
only
poetry or
his
something.
command lancemates, a few guards, a Buddhist priest. And then a platoon of the 7th Crusader soldiers led by Sergeant Latha Pishel monitored the events with curiosity. They saw that there was an elderly mech warrior descending from a battle mech. It's clearly someone of importance. So he shot him.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to if you're going to do guerrilla actions, you always go for the officer first.
The shot instantly burned through his flesh muscle and the man's heart. So, yeah, he died, unaware that he just killed the leader of the Draconis Combine.
Now, to be fair, this sounds silly, but this happens a lot in history. Like,
Historically, this sort of shit happens. There's just random deaths like this all the time in conflict where it's like,
Wasn't there? What was that Confederate general? Was it Stonewall Jackson who got shot?
by his own guys?
That
Yeah,
might-
because
that
they
Oh,
didn't
was
know
it
what
always
they were
got?
doing.
one of my favorites is I think it was Francois the first son, Francois the first son, King of France. He one of his sons, because it wasn't the one it inherited. Do you know what he decided to do? He ran around naked on his horse, insulting the defenders of a city as he circled it twice. Eventually, an archer got sick of his shit and shot him right in the chest, and he died.
There's a lot of shit like that where just
So,
random ass things like that happen. Like people, this is
This is what
and
this is
let's
actually
also note
quite
this
plausible.
this is a 90-year-old man who is basically like, oh, I'm gonna compose like my last bit of war poetry here
Especially since the
because this
area
is my last
was
campaign,
relatively secure.
and it's very pretty. It's a very pretty and seemingly pretty secure
I have
location.
I have most of my. He also went with his guards. He only dismissed them for
And
a
a
brief
priest.
bit.
And a priest. So it might have literally been that this was like going to be the place where he was deciding that, you know what, maybe I'm going to commit seppuku here so that my son gets all the honor. Maybe it's more like I'm going to compose my last death poem here and decide to die on this world, knowing that New Avalon can go to my son, and that will be his accomplishment, or whatever the fuck else. We don't know.
Which is plausible. That's
What?
something that has been done before.
But
Yeah.
but here's the thing: when the Federated Sons heard about this, they shat themselves
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
as much as Mioru was a vile man, Jinjuro was
Crazy.
Fucking
violent.
crazy.
So here's the
So
thing.
basically-
Minoru was brutal. Jinjuro literally fucking psychotic.
And so to do this, the Prince Davian ordered his troops left on Katara's Fort to withdraw immediately to avoid any sort of, vengeance strike. But
The problem
then
with that is that left no other response
Yeah.
that Jinjuro could have other than, well, the world
Well-
has to fucking go.
yes, he lands on the planet on 9/11 actually of 2796, ordering just
They-
this word.
No, the best part is that was written.
dropship has hit the towers.
No. The
Yeah.
best part is that was written way before the towers happened.
Sir, another land air mech has hit the towers. They just hit the fucking Pentagon.
They hit the fucking Pentagon worlds, man. They hit the fucking Pentagon worlds.
No. Sir. Korea massacred everyone in the Pentagon. Castle Bravo Pentagon.
So his order, kill them all. When someone has to clarify that, because
he ordered
because
them killed,
I'm pretty
why
sure-
the fuck are you
well,
asking that?
yeah, because I'm pretty sure, a prefix on them, because it could mean kill everyone in this room, kill everyone on this planet, kill every single human being. Who knows?
He asked.
But Jinjuro ordered his guards to execute the man. So for the next 5 months, they go Eizengrappen on the planet.
No. The difference is they're
I'm
not just
not
targeting one type. Everyone. They were going
Yeah.
to cleanse the entire world personally.
This is a fucking genocide. I don't think
is
is
No,
actually.
it's not
this is
genocide.
we haven't-
It's omnicide.
No, not even.
Nanking.
This is not because Nanking was, as it's described, a rape. This is a military operation to commit genocide.
This is mechanical slaughter. This
52
is
million deaths
Yeah.
manually.
2 million.
Eventually, though, like a
Wait,
lot of
wait.
the thing about this,
how many months again?
roughly it took let's see, from the 9th to the 2nd, so that would be about 5 months.
He kept this going
Ha-
for months, and it was only after month 2 that they finally began to waver. For 60 days, they kept going.
Basically put, this actually caused a complete breakdown of morale among Kurita, because here's the thing. Kuritan troops are incredibly loyal.
Like
Incredibly fanatical. They're willing to do almost
They're
anything
fanatical,
for the
indoctrinated,
coordinator.
and they see these people as creatures, really. Because it's the war.
to point this out. Even the Nazis suffered the same thing. even they suffered the sort of, oh my god, I've been shooting babies in the face.
It takes
Maybe I'm a bad person.
it takes
The
you're
amount
only
of
going to find
suicides among
some.
Puritan officers skyrocketed because like they couldn't justify it. Like
So-
mech warriors and everything. It
Entire
got
units
so bad to
actually
the point where
committed
there's
mutiny.
like
Yeah.
where you've got to understand the discipline of these entire units and formations was completely breaking down to the point where like the others were trying to hide victims and things like that, and eventually like it got to the point of like near mutiny
So
Yeah.
in some areas.
Oh,
let's-
also, here's what happened. When the sergeant found out about the sergeant that killed Minoru Kurita found out, he killed himself.
Yeah.
Blaming himself for the atrocity.
So let me just very quickly, just to give you a personality view. Minoru Kurita would have been the type of person who would have just glassed the entire planet.
Right, like that's the retaliation. It's like, okay, it's over, it's done, it's quick. Moving on to the next
Alternatively,
target.
Jinjiro, no, he could have done that. In fact, actually, his own advisors, if they were not afraid of him killing them, would have probably advised it. He would have
Like,
refused.
no, this has to be personal.
He wants
And
to
the other problem
see
is that
them.
this
He wants to see them as they're piled up and burned.
then results, of course, in a major. First off, it delays.
No,
the
it's even
planned
worse
defense
because
from
after the
that
first
bomb.
month, he attended the executions and he forbade modern weapons. He actually banned them from firing squads. He forced them to use their swords after a while.
So here is the results though of this. It actually brings back hate crimes. They start people in the Federated Suns start killing anyone that looks Asian or believing in Eastern faiths.
Yeah, it literally brings back pogroms.
By the way, Jinjiro had to order his entire guard to start massacring entire units just to force them to keep going.
Let's see what else happened.
It is a miracle
Field
they
units,
all did not collectively just say "fuck it" and shoot him, and blame
So-
the
so
Kentarans.
Field units operating near the Combine just started plotting vengeance campaigns.
Oh yeah.
7th Crucius Lancers, the 12th Satyr Fusiliers, the 3rd Deneb Light Cavalry, launching unauthorized attacks against the Draconis Combine. There's so it really rallies people.
Like not even expecting this because this is
and
completely
if I remember correctly, it also caused several mercenaries to break off their support.
Yeah.
And I think probably even some Draconis forces to defect because it's like
it did. It caused a lot of like what's known as the chain gangs later on.
Let's remember they killed about the entire, almost the entire population of everyone that died in World War II in months.
Yep. Like again, it's
by the
it's
way,
a thing where people are like,
at this point,
I'm also pretty sure the Draconis populace did not know this happened.
So
no, they kind of did sometimes. The major thing though is
this pisses off the Suns. The Federated Suns actually
this
get
basically
so psychotically
reunifies everyone because it's like the Federation was on the verge of breaking, and at this point
they're
it's
on
like,
the verge of breaking.
No, like we can't let this happen again.
I guess I can't talk. I just wanted to say, to give you an idea on their renewed battle strategy, they willingly meat grinder themselves so ferociously, even the Koreans were like actually forced back and astonished. Like,
yeah. Now the other
we're
thing,
talking 100% units wiped. The next units just threw themselves in immediately afterwards. No remorse, no respite, and they were forced back. They have never seen House Davian fight this fucking hard before.
It's not only that; it's also that you've got to remember that this event causes a chain reaction among other DCEMS units, because you've got to understand that arguably before this they can say that they're winning. They're not doing anything that wrong. Even the ones that are in like the pacification campaigns really aren't doing.
Well, I mean, they're doing
crimes.
wrong, but like, look at what's happening in the rest of the fucking inner sphere.
Yeah. Like you can argue that this is a lot less damage than has been inflicted elsewhere. There's not as much nuclear exchanges during this campaign as to compare to almost everywhere else. The problem is that once the news of Cantares hits, it's sort of like that moment of realization of like, oh, oh fuck, the new guy's a psycho. And that's enough to make you kind of start questioning, like, how hard do we really want to fight for this guy?
Oh, and on top of this, so Prince Paul
On top
Davian,
of this,
Paul Davian has to
the
take the reins because because what was it? Is this his uncle? Joshua Davian's
yeah,
19-year-old son, Paul Davian. So his grandson, the current leader, the leader of the Sons, and his son were both killed by an assassin. Was this potentially Kurita as well? Like personally, was this Comstar doing something funny? Was this people within the
or was this
Federated
a coup
Sons?
internally?
Yeah, was this a Federated Sons to further drive the rage?
Yeah, the counteroffensive though is like insane because the main problem is that the major issue that the Kurita has during this entire bit is that they can't go back really.
Oh no, it's even better because even as Jinjiro is ordering even harder more and more people are actively like they don't care. You've shown that you have shown no quarter. The penalty's death. Okay, we're going to kill as many of you as we fucking can before you go down.
Right.
Oh, you've
It's kind of
taken this part of our lands.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy the transmitter system so you're trapped here to die with us, motherfucker.
Yeah, it becomes a scorched earth reprisal campaign through the Federated Sons by the Federated Sons. Like that's the other thing here.
And their army's morale's crumbling.
Kind of had the right idea where it's like Davian probably isn't going to scorch earth their worlds to liberate them. So if we play this right, any counteroffensive we can contain.
By the way, this fails because guess what? Coyote points out, Comstar, because of what they saw, they broadcasted this shit. So no, Draconis saw it. So that's why their morale collapsed.
That's part of why the morale collapse is that Comstar, in one of their first great fuckeries of the Succession Wars, gets their hands on the recordings of what happened.
I personally think this was merited too.
Starts broadcasting about how terrible Kurita is to everyone, including Kurita, which causes a lot of unrest. Which causes a lot of other DCMS units to have to be retasked to deal with riots and civil unrest. And, insurgency groups on the planets that suddenly got back in contact with a bunch of other forces. Gee, Billy, I wonder how that happened.
You know what I realized? There has to have been people that are Kentares deniers.
There are. They're mostly paid by Kurita, almost certainly.
They have to be in Kurita space, but that must be really fucking funny.
No,
being a Kentares massacre truther.
Listen. You see, look at the image of that row of babies getting their heads chopped off. You can see the cuts that they do in the footage. They're just splicing it.
Katanas can't cut baby necks.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
They just can't. They're too flexible.
Listen, you see, they're burning that family with a flamer, but that is not a fire starter. That's the leg of a warhammer.
No. How's Davian staged it?
Melt Davian bones.
How's Davian staged it? They found body doubles. And they found body doubles of Jinjiro. and had a bunch of traitors to our state.
Minoru wasn't even killed. You never saw a body of Minoru. I'm just asking. Listen, I am just asking questions here. But do you find it odd?
Why am I getting kicked off of
odd?
Alexios.
Wait, no. Hold on. Do you find it odd that mercenaries who have been willing to take money from, they're willing to take money from everybody, but they just somehow think that this is a crime too far, even though they had been participating in the Ameris Civil War? They find that too hard to believe. I really don't. You know who I think is behind it? It's the Jews.
And then Comstar bans this guy, and
it's Alexisio Jonzu with Infowaru.
No. The best part is the border world he's from, because I'm imagining he's on a border world between these two. They legitimately have a kill on sight order because.
Wait, hold on. Doesn't the Federated Sons have that one planet that still has apartheid?
No, that is that's over in the Commonwealth. That's over in the Lyran.
It's in the Lyran
Commonwealth. That's
So no,
Nuketown.
it is a
And they
Lyran.
get better. They get better after the clan invasion because they then just decide that all clanners are subhuman. Therefore, the blacks are okay because they're not clanners.
Translation: they pussied out because, oh no, one person complained on Twitter. Which, don't get me wrong, that is
No, it's
still
not even
fucking
that.
cursed.
It's funnier.
still
It's
fucking
funnier that
cursed.
way, but
It is.
it's still cursed. But it's still really funny that it's like the clanners are worse than the blacks. Like, what the fuck?
But yeah, legitimately, the real potential victory that Kurita had, this actually swings it from, oh yeah, they almost won, to it's kind of astonishing they
Oh
didn't
shit!
die.
This went bad.
If only you could look to history to see dedicating your military to commit genocide doesn't work out.
Do you know how
So
many
basically,
timelines I've
they
seen where
managed to
Kurita got
retake.
destroyed? There's a lot of alternate history takes on Battletech where Kurita gets killed off in this one.
Yeah, the major thing is that they have to fight a two-front war. Basically, everybody does. So the Davian cannot dedicate their full forces to an offensive into the Kuritans. If they had been able to, which is probably like, yep, there goes Kurita. But they don't. They can't. Instead, it takes them 17 years to retake what was lost before.
Yep, and on top of this, throughout the entire time, Paul Davian was essentially building reforms from scratch. Because the big reason the
Yeah,
Federated Sons were eating shit was, yeah, they just, like, there was a complete
bad military doctrine.
horrible
A lot
military
of it.
doctrine. And he started by actually promoting the units that went full-on psycho mode into the Kuritans.
Yeah, basically promote the commanders that are incredibly aggressive. Therefore, you encourage more aggressive sub-commanders, so you don't get units that are going to retreat at the first sign of combat.
Also,
It's things like that.
on top of that, it also encourages them and reminds them that, no, you are correct in taking these, because by this point, you can call them things. After Kentares, Kuritans were not seen as people by the Federated Sons.
Yeah, there's a few other like
A
little
lot of
bits.
pogroms happened during this time.
Yeah, there's a few other little bits and pieces of like how this kind of all boiled down and boiled out. But
Oh, by the way,
in general, this
the
is the
main
point that
people,
kind of ends the succession wars.
the main people that were
The
considered, Sandal Quinn was also was floated because the Capellans did not want Jinjiro to potentially win.
Yeah, and then we kind of go through the other bits of the
Like,
succession
holy
wars after this.
shit,
That's
yeah,
kind
this
of like
is
the last.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's the last bits of it. So we go into like,
you know, the remnants of the Republic. There's a Turian Canopian War.
Yep.
there's the Circinus Federation, Lyrans are invading. There's the Oberons.
Battle
There's a
for
lot of
Chesterton's,
outposts of the RimWorlds.
Exhaustion, Decay,
There's
Remnants of
a
the
lot of
Republic.
worlds
Yep.
are lost. To give you an idea,
So,
though, on page 107, here's how many
oh
worlds are
no,
lost.
well, 105 is, I guess, where we start tallying it up. 150 planets are wiped out. The damage
Which,
done to the point where
148, roughly.
I think that's
148.
something like, because there's about 5,000 worlds, I think.
That's a pretty big percentage chunk.
Yeah.
Depopulation. You know, most worlds were depopulated, abandoned. So yeah, the Reaper scorecard, Capellan Confederation, and what I find very interesting, majority of these are famine.
Well, no
Most of these are
shit.
famine because of how the trade network in BattleTech worked out. A lot of these worlds could not support the populations they had on their own. There were other worlds that exported lots of agricultural produce because volume for volume, it was cheaper and easier to get it to these worlds.
Yep.
Maybe
And
some of these
what-
worlds also simply didn't have the ability to support a biosphere, but they did have a lot of valuable materials on world that needed to be mined. Well, they can't be able to grow food there. Well, then what happens when the trade network gets cut out? All those people starve to death.
And here's what happened. After first, this Amera Civil War basically disrupted trade. That's caused some of the famines already. The Succession War, though,
And then-
guaranteed it because that was the death of basically trade networks.
Yeah, because all these cross-state trade networks that the Star League had created, well, those are now gone.
So let's go through. The Capellans lost 21 worlds, 15 dead, 6 abandoned, which is horrible for them. Like, it's horrible for anyone to lose that many, but, like, for the Capellans, that hurts a lot. 9 to famine, 8 to disease, Draconis lost 22. Famine 9, Disease 3, War 7 because not kidding. The Federated Suns when I said they saw them as things after that, yeah, they did 7
There's
Kentaris back at them.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of shit that went down during the succession wars in terms of like large-scale civilian
The
massacres.
ones
Because
who
as it
came
turns
off
out,
the best were probably the Free Worlds League. They only lost 3, which isn't
yeah,
great, but survivable. The Lyrans also came out of it relatively okay. The glut of the death came from Capellans, Draconis, and Suns because they were the ones that fought the hardest, as well as the Rim Worlds, which were basically destroyed at this point.
yep.
Outworld Alliance also lost most of their stuff, basically gone. Tarians lost some, and even the Magistracy was the only one that didn't lose any.
And that's one of those kind of
Dumb
weird,
luck.
wonky things.
It's mostly
Yeah,
due to
dumb
dumb
luck,
luck.
really. They don't have anything that anybody severely wants, and they had a big enough military to make everybody think twice.
Well, they had a large enough
So
military for that, and also they were just way out of the way. Also, their worlds were just kind of somewhat marginal at the time. Like the Magistracy
yeah,
is not very large. It's kind of just there.
yeah.
141
So,
worlds out of what used to be probably 5,500.
page 125 does gives us the shipbuilding casualties. Capellans, all 6 destroyed. Draconis, only
Timeline?
1 survived. The Federated Suns had most of their shipyards crippled. Free Worlds League had most destroyed. Lyran Commonwealth destroyed. Commissar decommissioned all of theirs, and the peripheries
Decommissioned air quotes there.
Yes.
They kept them running actually. They made small. They would do upgrade programs for existing dropships, and they would also make a few of their own. Definitely
And-
not warships. Please don't believe that they are. Anyone that says so
no,
is lying. And
let's do another thing just to show that because the finances and economy also fell apart too. The
yes,
great
they
houses
did.
were
And
not
guess
the only
who's
losers.
left?
Well, no, let me. Great houses weren't the only losers. Magistracy, Tarians, and Outworlds, yeah, they weren't targeted directly, but they got fucked. The big one though is the exchanges. Look at it. Brokers Haven destroyed. Commerce City was destroyed in the Ameris coup, as was Monetary Gain, as was Success. Currency, First Succession War. Moneysville, First Succession War. Profitica, First Succession War.
wait,
Prosperity.
hold on. I do need to say Moneysville.
Yeah.
The name.
Moneysville. Yeah.
Notice that this fucked over.
Also,
so
there's
many.
Detroit. They lost Detroit.
Yeah.
No, not Detroit.
Not Detroit. Not
Wait,
Detroit.
do
no.
we mean actual Detroit or
the planet Detroit? It's
Oh.
So here's the shipbuilding casualties. Delhi
Um,
destroyed. Delhi warships destroyed. Cresters was completely destroyed. Rajpur Owens barely survived.
Oh, and then
Stellar
here's
Trek
also
survived.
Yeah.
McKenna and Federated Boeing barely survived. Actually, Federated Suns came out lucky.
Here's also the tech we lost. We lost extended range PPCs, pulse lasers, streak missiles. So we won't be seeing those for hundreds of years.
By the way, look
Yeah,
what happened.
a lot of the
Look
higher
what happened
tech-
to the fucking Lyrans. They lost all of their They lost all of theirs.
So and
Comstars were
there
all
were
intact,
actually
but,
issues. You could you can build different Star League spec Warhammers, but lacking the ER PPCs.
By the way, the Minnesota
Standard
Trident
autocannons
exists
replaced
and
ultras.
escaped.
ERs dropped in favor of regulars.
Basically, a lot of the downgrading that happens to certain mech models is, well, a lot of it's that we just shifted back towards the reunification war standard. For example, the Warhammer is one of those mechs where even without double heat sinks and all that sort of stuff, that really wasn't like their big thing that they were using for those anyway. So fuck it, go back to the 6R model. It'll work just fine. Marauder was actually designed. The 3R standard is actually a Succession Wars era design because the original one used advanced technology. Then
Sorry,
during the
I seem to have missed the tech stuff that you're talking about. I must have missed
it. It was during the shipbuilding casualties.
Thank you.
But but there is something interesting that does happen in this period. October 9th, 2085, the Lord of the
Minnesota
Scarlet
tribe.
of the
Yep.
Draws Combine is attacked by a Star League Air Tactic regular army colored unit. No identifies linking to Kerensky's forces. They bore an insignia corresponding to the Terran District of Minnesota. Then they left. And we do not know where they are.
We don't know where, and it's one of those mysteries of the setting, but it's basically stated that this is the remnants of Clan Wolverine that went from one end of the sphere to the other, basically. They're somewhere out in the southern part of the periphery. We don't know exactly where, but they're somewhere there. As well as that, there's also the chain gang missions in the DCMS that we're going into the Lyrans, which is basically put the people who are objecting to the massacres and all this sort of shit. Jinjiro ordered them to basically go kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's the
Here's
chain
also the
gangs.
thing. Jinjiro, he survives until 2841.
Mainly
Yeah.
because
But he's
It's-
insane.
he only
Yep.
lasts that long because, again, House Kurita has put so much power into their coordinator that, yeah, they're just too terrified to just. It's similar to Stalin. You're just too terrified to just. Because if you don't get him the first time, you're done.
Something else that I'm starting to see is that pretty much everyone that remember the priests, that remember the Star League era, are dead.
Basically, all the leaders that started this war, they're dead by the end of it.
And so now we're having a generation of generals and political leaders that only know war. Whether it's from the American Civil
Almost total war. Let's also
or
not
the
forget that.
or the First Succession War. Yeah,
And
you gotta
then-
imagine what that does to the psyche.
And then we get the deployment table at the end of our run through of all this. So you can tell which units were completely destroyed, which ones were ex-SLDF forces, their general experience and loyalty during the fighting, along with their combat weight and strength of the fighting. Some of these units go from 100% to, 27 by the end of the fighting.
By the way, if you're wondering, D means that they were wiped completely.
Yep, destroyed, disbanded.
And point out on 140 active warships of the Great Houses. By 2821, no one. The highest is 18, and that's the Lyrants.
By the way, check out what happened to the Free World
from a
Fleet.
high of 217.
Look at what happened to the Bolin Defenders. Look at that fucking K rate.
Yeah, they went down for that. The reason why that was such a bloody campaign is that they went, they fucking went to the end on that one.
Yeah.
Also, Lyrans have a similar although they were rated non-functional, which meant that there were still fragments. It's just so few of them.
Non-functional at the start of the war for a lot of the regulars, which basically meant that they were just reserve units on paper that had to be pushed out into the fighting. And look at the casualties they took. Yeah. There's a lot of that sort of damage. You can see where it's like there's 0 units that are even relatively intact. By the end of this,
the most intact, just for those curious, the most intact for the Lyrans were the Stealths, which is not a fair take.
Which is a mercenaries unit that got nationalized, and then
from there,
I guess the other one.
I would say the 4th Arcturian Guards. They were at least somewhat intact. No, the 25th. They were still at 70%.
Yeah.
Not great. Oh, no. The Donegal regulars.
The second Donegal regulars, who were a non-functional unit to start, completely green, barely saw any combat, still 75% strength.
The ones that started.
There's a lot of.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
The ones that started out, I think that the most intact was the 18th Arcturian Guards, who are still considered a green regiment by the end of this. They took 49% casualties.
Yeah. By the way, the 10th Arcturians went from veterans to regulars by the end because they lost so many of their officers.
I do like this. So when they're getting to the rules annex and they start saying
I just want to show. Look at what happened to their fucking navy. Rip.
Also, take a look at what happened to the fucking Gravewalkers. Jesus Christ. Under uncontracted mercenaries,
38%.
38% for both regiments.
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
yeah.
Who did they fight?
I'm gonna go with Jinjiro, or either that or in the periphery.
Yeah, I hold on. I need to go back and look and see who they actually signed up for, because that's some serious casualties.
I think they might. My guess, they may have been on Hesperus.
I would not be shocked if they were in one of the Hesperus fighting, because that would be a meat grinder for basically anyone. Finding that page where they have
Well,
all
that's
the
going
lists
on.
of everybody.
So ex-Star League Defense Force commands.
Yeah.
The reflected.
So you get these bonuses, but what I do like is the pre-existing damage.
Gravewalkers
Which-
were uncontracted, so they doesn't actually say. Unaffiliated, so they might have just been working on behalf of various corporations, Comstar, people like that, and they still took 70% casualties
because they were caught in the crossfire. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, they were kind of working on company contract when the Draconis Combine did their press, or Federated Sons did their press back, or during the Liao Merrick nuclear exchange. That could have been what did it.
Yeah. Now, if you take a look at the rules annex, they basically say, here's stuff that can be used. Here's stuff that can't be used, and here's your random assignment tables. Always are fun. They also go about like SSLDF units will get better equipment, obviously, because they were SLDF compared to house units. They had the better gear.
And they still had some of it left over by this point.
They talk about customization, XSLDF stuff. They're more likely to have it. Pre-existing damage tables, of course.
So I like. So if you roll a 6, you have to assign 2 critical hits to your vehicle or to your mech,
which can be really bad.
Now they do say it can't be used to immobilize or kill, but that could mean you lose a. You
might be losing something really, really useful. You might be losing a couple of weapons.
This would be it. You have a mech with an AC-20, and that's the crit.
Yeah. That sucks. It's basically a useless mech, but you got to put it out there. Hooray!
Then again, someone might lose an arm actuator or a leg actuator and basically be unable to move.
But that's how bad these wars were.
Then there's downgrades tables, because of course technology is going down. So any advanced technology, it's going out the window pretty fast. More elite units get to keep it longer, but you get then, of course, a list of all of the wonderful.
Oh, by the way, here's the
random assignment
points.
tables. Yep, for commands. Then after that is the random assignment tables, where they give you everything from light units to heavy units, battle mechs, to everything else.
And aerospace, and technical readouts.
Yep, they have some TROs where they're talking about like the equipment that got originated during this time period, because people were basically taking the standard battle mech designs and just refitting them for the Succession Wars. For example, the Locust 1E, one of the better Locust variants.
Yeah, because it doesn't have machine guns.
Yeah, the Capellans basically stripped out the machine guns, slapped on an extra medium laser and an extra small laser.
I was confusing the Grasshopper for the Locust because it's a similar bug.
Yeah, it's funny because the Grasshopper is a 70-ton mech that jumps.
It's because
that's the main thing to remember.
Both
it's a bug mech that's a big one.
It's the same fucking bug, basically, though. That's why.
So why don't you confuse it with the next one, the Wasp?
Because that's a different species of bug.
The Wasp has a bunch of variants that come out. So there's the 1A, which is the standard scout variant that came in.
Ooh, I like the 1D. I've never seen that one before. 1 medium laser, 1 flamer, and 2 small lasers.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. The Valkyrie, of course, is one of the other things where it was originally a Star League era thing.
It was commissioned
when Star League
in the
collapsed.
aftermath of the Civil War, but yeah.
Debuts in 2787.
Yeah,
What do we got for this one?
Their hands on it, so they started to use it. Then there's
an
the
LRM-10.
2D and 2Ks. So the 2D Shadowhawk is an interesting one in that it is absolute garbage, and anyone that uses it is a fucking crazy person. It takes everything about that you would like about the Shadowhawk, which is that it has half decent armor and the decent ranged outfit. It doesn't really do that much damage, and says, fuck it. We're stripping out all the they're taking out all the good things, and we're just gonna, put on an extra medium laser. Not a bad choice. We're getting rid of all of your armor for a second SRM2. What?
Why did they think that was? Wait, no, I do know why. Because if this is being made in development for the
Oh no, the
for the
Shadowhawk's been a
Succession
thing
War,
for a while.
you
I'm
hit
reading.
hard. Yeah, you hit hard, you hit fast.
No, it's literally
It's
you have a
still
mech.
worse.
You have a fucking
It's
mech. That's the
still
point.
worse, I would say, than the standard SHD. It's still pretty bad. Meanwhile,
it's
the
literally
2K,
because they don't have they talk about it. You don't have the parts anymore. This is their attempts to make what they have work
yeah,
still.
the 2K is actually good. It's basically just a discount Griffin. It works. It's not amazing, but it works.
I mean,
Fit-
packing a PPC on
It's
a
fitting that the Draconis
on a
variant
fast
is
Mac.
better.
Well, actually, a lot of the Draconis variants of this era are arguably better.
Just pointing out that the one you were dunking on was the Suns variant, so you can kind of
I
understand
know
why they lost.
the Suns variant was awful. I fucking hate the 2D. It's so bad. This is though the best variant ever made in the Succession Wars that's coming up. I think that this is arguably the best medium mech of the Succession Wars era because it hits the sweet spot of like absolute fucking murder without being overly point costed. Well,
SRM6, one
SRM
launch
six, two medium lasers, one large laser. It jumps 5. It's 55 tons. It's cheap in C-bills. It has the range. It has a little bit less range than its normal one, but it jumps 5. It's a fantastic medium mech that just will keep fighting, and the quirks for it make it a lot better at close-in combat than almost any other mech of its weight class. It is the king of the mediums in this era, in my opinion. Like you can talk about your hunchback and all that, and it's like, yeah, fuck you. I just jump behind you. Guess what? I jump behind you. I kick you.
The funniest thing about this.
Where's your rear lasers?
So here's the funniest thing about the Wolverine. This variant was actually made essentially just for the final grind for the Thumb campaign. The
Right.
Lyrans
It's a
ran out
very
of stuff, and this was their solution, and they accidentally made a good mech.
the Free Worlds League ran out of shit for their 6Rs. They couldn't get their autocannon, so like fuck it, slap on a large laser. Thus began the long and storied Merrick tradition of fuck it, slap a large laser in.
And it worked.
Marauder
it worked for
doesn't
the
have
Wolverine.
PCs. Fuck it, slap in 2 large lasers.
Oh yeah, the other loser traditionally in alternate history Succession War scenarios are the Capellans just fucking die. It's one or the
It could
other.
have happened. I still think that this is one of the reasons why the Merricks love their large lasers so much as this fucking variant, because it's so good.
They stopped the Lyrans with it, yeah.
It does more damage than your standard Wolverine, flat out. It has better heat management than most other variants of its era. It is more mobile than most other mechs of its weight class. It's
You
really
can
good.
customize it, especially once you find the old tech that was lost.
If you get double heat sinks, this thing becomes obscene.
Whoa, yeah.
Because its only real problem is it has to be a little bit worried about the heat. It can't really go full out alpha striking every turn.
You find double heat sinks that can fit in it.
If you slap double heat sinks in this bitch, it becomes a real fucking problem for everyone around you. Luckily, that generally didn't happen. The other mech where it's like, oh, if you just swap out to double heat sinks, it becomes a monster is the Warhammer 6R. If you just take the standard Warhammer and you slap in double heat sinks, it goes from already pretty decent to Jesus fucking Christ, it can just alpha every turn. What the fuck? Sort of levels of that without really losing any capability. Yeah, like sure, you got the SRM ammo, you can ammo detonated and all this other stuff. You got machine guns, all that, but it just is like, I'm just cold. I'm just ice cold. I'm just fucking ice cold this entire time. And it's hard to beat 2 PPCs in this era that you can fire every turn. It's why the Awesome is so good.
Oh, and if you're wondering, they also describe how you can do large-scale wars to change up how things go.
They legitimately say, there's a hex map of the entire inner sphere for you to
Inner
use.
Sphere.
Yep.
And here's the Inner Sphere at War rule set stuff for that, because that was a slight tactics game that they had for a while. I don't know if they still publish it.
They publish it in the form of these books, but I don't think they seriously make anything for it
Yeah,
anymore.
and then that kind of covers up the rest of it. So
Yep.
I
That's
know
it.
that the
That was
I
that was
will bring
the
up the 6K. The 6K is also good. The 6K is basically a heavy mech pretending to be a 55 tonner. The main thing about it, though, is that it sacrifices the thing that makes the 6M so fucking good, which is mobility. The reason why the 6M is arguably better is it's harder to hit more often because it can jump 6. It's just better that way. Now, I know you could argue that the 6K, because the extra armor and the extra small laser on it is better, and that's fine to argue. I will still say that you're wrong.
I just
I
like
will
my
still
chicken
say that the
walkers.
6M is the better Wolverine.
I just like my chicken walkers, even if I can't
You,
remember
you,
which
you just
bug it
want more
is.
locusts. You just want more locusts.
What's
Adam
locusts.
wishes for the swarm of locusts, the cheap,
Locusts.
shitty mech swarm.
Was it
Well,
locusts?
no, there's also
Jenners.
the.
He might be a fan of a stone rhino.
Well, no, because the Capellans have, I think it's called the Raven, which is also a chicken walker. That's pretty cool.
The Raven, yeah, the Raven, the light mech swarm is genuinely a tactic you can do with the Capellans. They have a couple of decent ones. Like the locust 1E is like, yeah, it's a locust. It doesn't have much armor, but it punches twice as hard as almost every other locust variant out there.
Oh, I don't like it for
Well-
the mechanics. I like it because I like chicken walkers.
Well, also because it's a chicken walker. Like that's the other thing about it. It's just it doesn't even have arms. It's just like I have little laser arms,
I mean, if it
which means it
chicken
can
walks,
also
it's
fire
great.
those behind it.
Yeah, if it chicken walks, it's great. They're my favorites.
So the like unironically, a swarm of that and ravens would be kind of really annoying. Because those ghost targets could make those locusts extremely hard to hit.
No, and then you combine in the naval airdrop guys who spec in debt packing your mechs, and you hide them in trees and
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, that's Capellan tactics right there. But yeah, what did you think of this overall?
Not as good as the Liberation duology, in my opinion.
That did have more time to go develop stuff, though.
Yeah, it's just
It's a
slightly
pair of books
less
compared to
good.
one.
It relies
You-
kind of
you
on
are-
convenient
yeah.
deaths, in my experience. Like, it relies a little too heavily on, oh, well, this guy conveniently died, so therefore X happens.
It's also recounting a lot of the stuff that you already knew about from the house books.
Yeah. But it like, when you frame it like what it is, it's, oh, this schmuck then died, allowing X to happen. This schmuck died here because Y needed to happen. Which is admittedly fair. That does happen, you know, that type of synchronized leadership shift. But it's just kind of, it feels a little too hack-handed. Little on the hack-handed side, you know? It's like, oh, well, we got the competent, oh no, now we got the insane guy who's so crazy. And by the way, since someone asked, yeah, Jinjiro had a half-brother. He was always terrified that he'd overthrow him, to the point where he got lucky. Zabu, I think, died, but he was still so crazy, he still thought he was alive. Like, by the end of it, he was completely out of it. Like, 90 years old, fucking insane and babbling at walls. Like, Kurita was a complete shit show at that point.
Yep.
But, what was I on about? Yeah, Minoru dies. I mean, he's like 91, so it's fair. But then Jinjiro instantly, any percent speed runs, crushes Kurita's cock with a rock. Barbara Liao dies. Instantly, Liao is different, although, let's be fair, she died of a
Liao
blood sword.
temporarily turns it around for a little bit, then fucks up, which is sort of the Liao kind of like staple.
Davian dies. Instantly Hulk smashes after losing eternally for a decade.
Yeah,
Merrick
that is
dies,
odd.
instantly eats shit. Steiner
wanna know
dies,
what I'm thinking?
instantly changes tactics and gets more competent. That's a little
I-
hack-handed, in my opinion.
I am thinking that the Comstar was probably involved in a lot of this.
Oh, they were. In fact,
Like
actually...
the rare blood disease thing. Who knew about that?
Well, no, also legitimately, one
You
of the
know,
most common thoughts, besides actually the Capellans killing the Davians, was that it was Jerome Blake personally. And they play around with that, I think, during the Jihad.
I think maybe perhaps Comstar was thinking, if we kill off all the old leaders, maybe we can have a new generation that we can mold to our.
If you
If
told
we
me,
can,
if you told me Jerome Blake low-key planned to kill all of them so that the new generation either bled themselves dry or were more tractable, I'd believe you. Not because he's like a hyper Machiavellian guy. It's just like when you have all of the information to control, you can basically tell people to do stuff. Like it wouldn't
and we
be
already know
hard,
he's
for
tricked
example.
people. He's tricked a lot of people before, so it's not like it's completely out of left field.
I mean, wouldn't it be pretty simple to spoof both an order by Minoru Kurita before he died, or from the region of the Capellans to say an assassin to take out the Davians and just kind of make it that way? Because you own the comm stations, basically. It's not that hard. I could believe that. I think that would actually make a little more sense. It's just in terms of narrative writing style, that's a little bit convenient. It's kind of similar to how George R. R. Martin or Gurm, whenever he writes a Targaryen, he can never actually have one have a stable reign. There has to be, and then they fucked up, or and then the people revolted, or and then the Blackfires came back, or and then they killed themselves. It comes off as a little like it's meant to be unrealistic since you're kind of playing in a sci-fi setting, and like realism is a little bit. It's just from a writing point of view, it's kind of contrived. I find it a little less interesting because of that, because it's like I notice, oh yeah, this guy fucking it's just a little odd. It's a little odd. But that's me from like a story point of view. In terms of the stuff that happened, I'm not gonna lie, rereading the shit about Kentares, oh, I think that might be one of the best things they've ever written, just in terms of how fucking horrible it is. Like, it's vivid, and the entire campaign between Kurita and Davian, I think, honestly, there's videos about that shit. I seriously look up the fucking First Succession War stuff. Holy shit.
And remember, this continues on for up to the current era.
Yeah.
Remember, they killed the new Avalon Pope.
So my thinking is this: I rate it lower than the Operation Liberation and Amara Civil War, mainly just because I really like how that one was handled and paced. Also, you can come up with amazing games out of the stuff they talk about. This one has two of my favorite campaigns, though. Davian's the Korean offensive and the Davian counteroffensive. That's really cool. But also the Thumb campaign, because holy shit, that meat grinder is amazing. Also, it's also one of House Merrick's finest hours, honestly, because
But
they
they
were.
managed to hold off for basically the entirety of the Succession Wars and,
I mean,
and
they
basically
lost the
limit the
Thumb,
amount of
but
losses.
at what cost?
They lost the Thumb and they lost Solaris, but like, yeah, arguably they gave Steiner just as good as they got.
Yeah, like I think that's one of my favorite little campaign arcs. It's really great. I would rate it as a solid good. It gives you good rule sets. It really gives you a lot of the nitty gritty, and it also introduces that really cool Wolverine variant you guys like. Also, it's a good looking design. I like how the Wolverine looks, at least in the art. Not as
Yeah,
cool as my
it's
boy the
based off
Locust
of
and the Raven, but still.
it's based off of the mech used in I think Fist of the Sun Dugram. There's one of it the Battlemaster and I want to say the Shadowhawk are all out of that anime.
I'm not surprised.
Mind you, they're all good classic designs. That's kind of why they got used for what they did get used for. But they're still like some of the unseen. They're fun.
Although, again, this still leads to the great scenario of you do the chicken walker spam, and then you throw in the double heat synced Wolverines to make everyone scream.
I mean, even the single heatsink
But
Wolverines
no,
are still like
you're an
they're really
asshole.
nasty.
No, you're still an asshole. Like, no, I need to
I
be a
mean,
bigger asshole. Let's have a couple of them.
if I'm an asshole, it's like I'm never going to overheat. I can be in a volcano and just firing all day. God damn. Yeah, double heatsinks are nuts. Anyway, with that, I think that we can call it here. What's next week?
Well, another meat grinder. One dedicated to a certain god.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy. We're gonna talk about that guy. We're talking about the same one, right? Or are we talking about a different one?
Is there another blood god that you're thinking of?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the guy whose whole thing was leaving bodies as you laugh to yourself maniacally at your plans coming to fruition. Yeah, we could talk about the meat grinder guy. Yeah, we could talk about him. We could talk about Bloodman. I'm fucking with you. Yeah, next week we're probably going to talk
Well, no.
about Corn.
Oh no, we
Tome
should
of Blood.
actually no. Thinking about it, we should leave that to August actually, because get it, because 8.
8, that is the sacred number. Well,
Good
you already messed that up by not
idea.
doing Nurgle at 6. So
Good
No,
idea.
Slaanesh is 6.
Yeah.
I thought that. Oh yeah, but what's Nurgle then? Like
7.
9?
7.
Oh,
And
really?
Tzeentch is
Fuck.
9. Yeah, we could cover a
And
Black Crusade book. We could
and
also
Skaven
cover.
and the Great Horn one's 13th.
We could cover. We could cover a Warhammer book. That's a cool one. I got some stuff for actually most of the Fantasy Flight stuff. We could cover more fantasy. The other possibility is we talk about something from the storyteller system. We could, just because we went from one massacre, we could talk about the other horrifying massacre, which would be rated 18, the Charnel House of Europe.
We
It is
could, but honestly,
Oh,
that's.
a little too dark.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good book to do as a podcast. Like that's the
that's a
only problem
recording.
with it.
I,
Like that's more of a recording thing because
Yeah.
we'd have to do that like completely right.
Well, also, yeah, it would be a completely. If you're wondering, we would be very different. I would not be cracking jokes throughout the whole fucking shit show.
oh dear God.
God, imagine cracking jokes on that book.
There
Oh,
are
God.
there is this one fucked up woman's face. There is also the humor of the leader of Auschwitz getting his soul turned into the Arbok Macht Frier symbol.
Yeah, that's in this. Yeah, he gets merged with that fucking gate in the Shadowlands.
Fitting.
Uh,
Probably not that then.
if we want, well, we could do the uh what was it? Dark Ages one about the beasts.
We could, or we could bite the bullet and do something that, because we do this occasionally. We could decide to dare to be stupid and cover one of the fan games, like the Leviathan one. Was it Leviathans? I don't remember. The only one I really remember is Genius the Transgression, which I don't particularly like myself.
You know what? We might pull it then.
I think we'll pull it because I'm kind of torn in half. I would totally be fine with covering the Tome of Blood. I would also not mind covering either a fan take on the storyteller system or just something from that neck of the woods. Mage books are always quite entertaining. Shit. And last but not least, we could do more Battletech, although I'd still want to do probably a palate cleanser because holy shit, Kentaris. Yeah, we'll hold a poll, I think. So yeah, expect a poll sometime either tonight or like early in the morning. Princess the Hopeful. I'm not the most interested in that, but I also wasn't the most interested in My Little Pony, so we might do that, Nick. Who knows? I don't think Tech would be there because he really doesn't give a shit about that sort of stuff. But yeah, I could at least give
Yeah,
it a look.
I probably wouldn't be there, but
And with
We'll see
that,
what
have
happens.
an
But
excellent night,
yeah,
everyone. Like I said, poll will be tomorrow. Before we do, make sure if you wanted to get a copy of the First Succession War, I've linked it into the description. And last but not least, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. See